Good morning. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. It is 11 a.m. on the East Coast. Of course, nice and early on the West Coast. Thanks so much for live streaming in with us here on Right Side. We have a busy day to get to. We know that at 12 o'clock, the House of Representatives will have their session starting at 12. We're hearing that later in the day will be the vote for reopening the government. Then from there, if it passes, which it most likely will, of course, then the president will be signing that into law. So then the government reopens. That could happen today. So we'll monitor that. Also, at 12:30, the vice president will deliver a speech at a Make America Healthy Again summit. And then at 1 o'clock, there is a White House press briefing, of course, with the great Karoline Leavitt. The president delivered a great speech in Arlington, Virginia yesterday. So let's just take a quick look at a new video from the White House.
Today, to every veteran, we say the words too often left unsaid. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much. When danger came, when duty called, when Almighty God asked, who had the will and the strength to defend the land of the free, each and every American veteran stood up and said, "Here I am, send me, here I am." Generation after generation, America's warriors have left behind the comforts of home and family to face violence, evil, and death so that our families could know joy, goodness, and peace. The American dream surges forward, and our magnificent destiny stands more splendid and glorious than ever before.
And of course, that posted just recently on that 24/7 news cycle with the White House there. So speaking of Veterans Day yesterday, let's go now to an interview with All Family Pharmacy conducted by RSBN host Robert McNeely.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's Michael Kunzler, our friend and co-owner of All Family Pharmacy, where you can find that at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Veterans Day this week, we're celebrating the good old U.S. of A. and inspired by those who sacrifice so much to protect us. Included in the sale, can you dive into that for us, Michael?
Sure. So we decided to do a 25% off sale on all medications. So you'll be able to receive 25% off ivermectin, antibiotics, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue. Any one of those products, whether it's a new order or our existing patients will be able to utilize it on a refill, which is awesome. And then as well as we're doing it on the vitamins, one of our vitamin companies, Operation Wellness, which we could dive more into. You'll also be able to see 25% off of those as well.
Yes, please tell us about this Operation Wellness.
Operation Wellness is our way of providing our over-the-counter supplements and vitamins to our patients, to our base. We know that these vitamins are of the highest purity. Everything is made here in the U.S. with our manufacturers. The reason we wanted to go this route is because we want to make sure that if we do provide vitamins to our patients, that it's a good quality company. So we oversee all of that, as well as the Operation Wellness has proceeds that we could jump into towards veterans. And specifically, the Veterans Day sale will also add to those proceeds to some of our organizations that we work directly with.
That's fantastic. It is really that time of year to not only celebrate those who are defending us in the line of battle, but also really to reflect on what we're grateful for as we approach Thanksgiving here. And we heard part of the proceeds from this Operation Wellness goes directly toward veterans' families. So how does that work?
So it's roughly around 10% of our total sales we donate every year to an organization called Children of the Fallen Patriots. The reason why we fell in love with this organization is I believe it's 99% of all proceeds are actually donated. By law, they have to state what percentage of donations are actually donated to those organizations. So outside of the 99 percentile of proceeds that are donated, it goes to the Children of the Fallen Patriots, meaning the family members of those who have obviously passed away in the line of duty or the active war. And so it helps them with schooling. It helps them with mental health. It helps them with college, high school, living expenses. It helps them with the numerous amount of funds that they'll need to get themselves through everyday life. Unfortunately, we've been to these events the last, I would say, 2 years. We've been a part of the organization donating. And it's a wonderful organization. It's a very sad thing to see, but it's a great cause, and we believe so highly in it.
And why is it important for All Family Pharmacy to give back in such a special way, especially to the children of fallen patriots?
Well, we are a family-owned pharmacy. We're all about family. We're all about community. We started off as a community pharmacy here, and we started off as a family-owned pharmacy who just provides nothing but the best services to our patients. And we've grown over the years. And, look where we are now. We're on RSBN talking about our business that we started off so small with. And so we felt as a family organization, we could provide those benefits and donations to the children who really need it the most. Some of them aren't even children now. They're in college. And, they need money. They need to get through schooling. They just unfortunately don't have either that one single parent or they don't have both parents anymore. And so we feel it's a great place for us to donate our proceeds to.
Yes, and thank you for doing that, because it's such an honor to talk to you about the things that can actually save people's lives, and then also prep them for this fall flu season where those sniffles come running in and then all of a sudden the whole household is sick. But how long will the Veterans Day sale run, and how can people take advantage of the 25% offer?
So the sale will run Monday through Wednesday. Traditionally, sales companies only do it on one day. The reason why we don't do it on one day is because we give our patients the time to place these orders. They may be working all day Veterans Day. They may not be available. Their kids might be home all day with them, as some schools are closed. So we give people that additional time to place these orders. So we give you 3 days for Veterans Day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it'll end Wednesday at midnight. And in order to take advantage of the sale, you just use RSBN 25 as your coupon code. So RSBN 25, no spaces, all one word, and you'll be able to save 25% off your entire order. We didn't put any restrictions on it. It's on all medications. So you can browse the website, look for stuff that you may need during flu season. And one of the things I've always suggested as we talked here on your network is the maximum immune support. One of my favorite vitamins. I've been taking it since COVID. I've got a lot of insight from our doctors over the years, and high doses of vitamin C, vitamin D, quercetin, and zinc are very important during flu season to keep your immune system very high and no vulnerabilities to any of these viruses that are coming.
Fantastic. It's All Family Pharmacy at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN with this very generous Veterans Day sale. And Michael, a great USA soccer shirt as we get ready for 2026, not only the midterms, but the World Cup. That'll be fun to watch. And you can take these life-saving medications with you on the road, too. So even though people are probably stocking up with their medicine cabinets, they could fit right in your carry-on.
Yeah, absolutely. What a time now when everybody's traveling, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, all the holidays are right around the corner. This is the perfect time to stock up on the meds. You don't want to be caught in a bind being out of state or being away from your home and not having any of these types of medications that you need. So it's a perfect time to stock up, especially with this discount.
Yes, sir. Michael Kunzler, All Family Pharmacy with the Veterans Day special this week. Thank you again for joining us on the right side of history.
Thank you.
Great interview there by our RSBN host, Robert McNeely, who you'll see tonight as well, because President Trump has an event tonight. We'll get more into those details in a minute. This Veterans Day, of course, yesterday, we honor the men and women who risked everything to protect our freedom, including the freedom to make your own choices about your health. So our great sponsor, as you just heard there, All Family Pharmacy has that special promotion. Today's the last day for it. RSBN 25 is the code, 25% off. This is going through again today. Get the medications your family needs. They offer more than 300 trusted prescription medications and supplements, all reviewed by licensed doctors and shipped straight to your door. And then there's more. When you order from their supplement line, Operation Wellness, part of every purchase is donated to Children of Fallen Patriots. helping fund education for the children of our fallen heroes. So you can take care of your family and give back to theirs. Don't miss the Veterans Day offer that you see there. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And today's the last day for that. Let's go to monetary gold. Every major financial disaster begins with a few simple facts that most people ignore, because in 2007, it was the overextended credit, reckless lending, and misplaced faith that everything will hold. Then it didn't, and then banks failed. Savings vanished, retirements were cut in half. The lesson was painful and unforgettable. So today, those same indicators are returning. Auto loan defaults are rising. Commercial real estate is strained. Private credit has grown far beyond its limits, and now even Jamie Dimon, a man who understands money better than most, is warning that when you see one problem in the system, there are always others hiding behind that. So these aren't theories, they're patterns. So when the patterns repeat, those patterns will repeat when people refuse to act. So for more than 25 years, Monetary Gold has guided Americans through every economic storm with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and one constant truth: real value endures when paper confidence fades. So you can study the evidence, act on reason, call 888-617-7994, or go to rsbnforthegold.com today. It's 11:11 this morning. Let's also go to Kalshi.com if you'd like to check out Kalshi.com/RSBN. A lot of places that you can bet, trade, and check out polls, but this is the leading one right here. Kalshi has more than 1 million users. That number is growing. You can go to the QR code, download the app, or just go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Again, topics like science, technology, sports, AI, politics, faith, music, all sorts of stuff on there, and weather. There's just a bunch of fun topics that you can check out there. All right, 3 great sponsors. We'll be talking more about them in just a bit. In the meantime, looking live there, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, a beautiful fall day in Washington, D.C. It's 11/12, Wednesday, November 12th. Meantime, within the 24/7 news cycle, I spoke with Jairus Jackson of the Media Research Center. I believe that this guy, Jairus Jackson, he's 26 years old, is going to be a rock star in the conservative movement. Let's take a look at that interview. And joining us now on Right Side Broadcasting Network is Jairus Jackson with the Media Research Center. Thanks so much for joining us, Jairus.
Appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Definitely. What's your overall take right now, 30,000-foot view on how you see the country? I know that's a very long answer possibly, but your thoughts about what's going on out there.
Let's say from a media perspective, which obviously being here at the Media Research Center, that's our domain. It's actually very interesting to see what you have going on in the country right now. You have the old guard dying media. These are your dinosaurs that will always fail to tell you the truth and always succeed in pushing a liberal agenda. These are your ABCs, your NBCs, your CBSs. They are dying. Their morning shows, their evening broadcasts, if you look at their viewership from just a few decades ago, it's down and it's continuing to crash. The legacy outlets have lied for so long to people, and people simply don't trust them. And as we saw with the last presidential election, we've seen a rise, whether that's podcasters, alternative media websites. People are finding that they can get the truth, not filtered, through various outlets, such as Right Side Broadcasting, for one. But it is interesting to see, full disclosure, I'm 26 years old, and it's to see these dying broadcasters really clinching to their last bit of relevancy. To anyone who will listen, because I can promise you, for people my age, and I mean, I have nephews even younger than I, no one cares what NBC has to say. No one cares what CBS has to say. They are not the authority of truth that they still think they are, but unfortunately for them, the American people disagree.
Yeah, you are exactly right, 100%. That's exactly what's happening out there. So now what needs to be done with conservative media and any others that are just waking up and saying, hey, I got to get the truth out there?
Well, I'll tell you this. Conservative media for the longest time thought that these people could be changed. And I am glad that we have woken up out of that sleep. I think where it will continue, their natural decline, because they're not going to change. So their natural decline will continue. We really don't need to stay as hyper-focused per se on them. Can you believe what NBC did tonight? Can you believe what CBS did tonight? Absolutely, that is important information and we need to know it. And we here at the Media Research Center, we're the best at doing that, newsbusters.org. We have the best info on that. But we need to continue to build our own infrastructure as well. Don't be concerned with the dying industry. Let's focus on what is going to be happening in the future. And that is people want to receive their information through podcasts, long form and things, talking with people who you may disagree with. I would much rather watch, to be completely honest, I'd much rather watch someone on the right, it's a contrarian with some right-wing views, and someone on the left is a contrarian with some left-wing views. I'd much rather watch a podcast of them talking about issues than two, hardline people that I can already telegraph exactly what they're going to say before they open up their mouth.
Exactly.
So I think for the conservative movement, we need to focus on, much like Right Side is doing, we need to focus on our own echo chambers. We need to be prepared for the future, which is not turning on ABC or World News Tonight at 5:30 p.m. The future is people having the news in their pocket when they want it. And we also need to be clear of the new threat that is rising. A lot of people are getting their news nowadays. AI and a lot of these news aggregators, and our Free Speech America division has actually talked at great length about this. If you go to their website, freespeechamerica.com, they've talked ad nauseum about how whether it's OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini, Google's Gemini, they train all of their AI and they have all their news algorithms all from far left-wing sources. The BBC, Reuters, AP. When you go on and you ask a ChatGPT or you ask any of these language models, when you ask them a certain political question, they're going to get the answer from the Associated Press. Well, I can guarantee you if ChatGPT is pulling from the Associated Press and Reuters, it's not going to be favorable to anyone that has even the slightest right-wing opinion in the country. So I think older generations were concerned about, did you see the bias that was on CBS tonight? Did you see the bias that was on NBC tonight? That's still important. But we must pivot to see the bias that's built into these AI systems that we use every day, the bias that's built into these phones, the algorithms that are on these phones, the built-in news apps that just spew the same left-wing garbage that people are not watching on their TV.
Man, Jairus, that's some great awareness for our audience, for myself. I mean, I know some of that, but the way you just articulated it was perfect. Thank you for saying what you just did so we can be more aware of the left-wing, lying, false narrative information. Again, that's all attached to things like Marxism, communism, anti-Constitution, anti-God, family, country, freedom. That's an awesome point. Also, Jairus, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there at the Media Research Center with some of the last facts and figures that you have from some recent coverage?
Yeah, so it's been somewhat astounding that we've seen the Democrats, in the words of the media, that they have caved in regards to this government shutdown deal. Let's start with this, though, and this is a little point that I have to mention. The disservice that the NBC, the ABC, the legacy dinosaur networks have done throughout this entire process. America has become dumber at the end of this process after listening to them. They have yet to really, if you look at their coverage mostly, they talk about Republicans. They talk about healthcare. They talk about healthcare for illegal aliens. They do all of the Democrat spin that they can. They don't mention the bare fact to Americans most of the time that in the Senate, you need 60 votes to pass a continuing resolution. This is a massive underpinning fact. This is the difference between Republicans don't want to do something, a lie, and realizing the truth that Democrats have been holding all of this up. It is the Democrats. If your flight is delayed right now, it's because of the Democrats. If you have not received SNAP, it is because of the Democrats. And this little fact that you need 60 votes in the Senate to pass a CR is almost never mentioned by the legacy media outlets. The Republican Party, they have a 53-seat majority in the Senate right now. They don't have 60. So they need the Democrats. And I think it's hilarious that it took, as soon as Democrats flipped their votes, all of a sudden the government's able to reopen. So what does that tell you? That tells you that it was the Democrats from day one. I think we're on day 45 or so plus now. It was the Democrats from day one holding this up because it's when they flipped their votes, not Republicans, when they flipped your votes, that's when things opened up. Now, our Newsbusters division, newsbusters.org, they have done fantastic, one-of-a-kind work throughout this entire shutdown. Published a study, I just want to make sure I get these numbers here correct, between October 1st and October 31st, the evening newscast of ABC, CBS, and NBC, 87% of their coverage favored the Democrats in regards to the shutdown, 87%. And when it comes to the Republicans, when it comes to just the Republicans, 12. So we have 83% favoring the Democrats, 12% favoring the Republicans, and then the rest of it just down the line coverage. It's amazing when you look at those facts and figures to see that they've basically been doing the Democrat bidding for all 40 plus days of this shutdown. And you wonder why people come out with polls. Oh, the Republicans in Congress, they should be worried. President Trump, he should be worried because everyone and their mother in America is blaming them for the shutdown. Well, you see where things like that comes from. It's not organic. It is not the truth. It is a byproduct of people being fed, whether that's through the evening newscast, whether that's through the AI, whether that's through the news algorithm built into their phone, literally built into the phone. That is why they are believing these lies. It is not because it is the truth. It is not because Republicans in Congress or the Trump White House has done anything wrong. It is because Americans at large are being lied to.
Jarris Jackson, you are a Patriot rock star. Everything you're saying is right on point, and hope to have you again here on this network. Jarris Jackson with the Media Research Center. Thanks for what you do. Keep up the good work. Would love to have you on again.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. God bless.
God bless you. You know, interviewing people that are in their 20s, as Jarris is, it's great to see that they're not getting brainwashed by that left-wing media. They're getting the true information, the common sense information, and then understanding it and articulating it in a way that you just saw there. So anyway, great interview with Jarris there with the Media Research Center. We have a number of other live interviews to get to and a number of other elements to get to. Before we get to that, let's go to angelpace.com. Out of Spring, Texas, of course, they hire military veterans. They have been a long-time sponsor here, but also, of course, most importantly, outside of the military aspect, they're great products. Angelpace.com. You have the Miracle Cream right there. If you go to the website, just go to angelpace.com. You'll check out all the different products. Maybe get a little early Christmas gift if you like for your spouse, maybe. So again, there's a number of products there. Use the RSBN promo code. You'll get quite the discount off of that product and all of the products right there on Right Side Broadcasting Network, angelpace.com, 11/22, Wednesday, November 12th. Let's go to our next sponsor. You see Cove Pure. Drink pure, live pure, Cove Pure. That's really all I have to say about this because it's very true. When you drink pure, it's healthier, it tastes better. Instead of the tap water, obviously, when you drink tap water, the taste is, ugh. And sometimes when you look at it in the light, you don't want to see green or brown or light hue of anything. And even if you don't see that, it still tastes like, let's be honest, crap. It's not good. But with this product here, you get 99.9% of the stuff that's in tap water, all the chemicals and stuff gets taken out. So then you have a healthier drinking water. Then on top of that, no aftertaste, and it's refreshing. Covepure.com/RSBN for a limited time. Get $200 off this great product right there. But on top of that, cold, warm, or hot. Those are the different temperatures you can get as well with this great product. So covepure.com/RSBN. Drink pure, live pure, Cove Pure. Let's go to Tax Network USA, 800-357-1415. We're not just kind of selling products here. These are actual things that will actually help, right? This is one of them as well. So if you missed any taxes in the past, Patriots like Tax Network USA are there for you. tnusa.com/RSBN, 800-357-1415. Just give them a call. They'll work on a financial plan with you. And if you have the money to pay it all off, well, they'll take care of that with you too. But if you don't, they'll work with you. It's just nice to have that peace of mind financially. There's enough going on in the world, right? Well, these guys will help. Tax Network USA, 800-357-1415. All right, so good morning once again, and welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. At 12 o'clock Eastern Time, the House of Representatives will vote on the Senate-passed legislation to reopen the federal government. At 12:30, the Vice President will deliver a speech at a Make America Healthy Again summit. And then, of course, at 1 o'clock, there's a White House press briefing with Karoline Leavitt. All right, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed, so join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Every once in a while, something big happens, something that changes everything. And now, in a defining moment for crypto, Trump Media Group and Crypto.com are joining forces to acquire up to $6.4 billion of CRO, launching America's first ever CRO treasury, empowering the Kronos blockchain. This is more than a partnership. It's the future of finance built in America. For more, visit Crypto.com, where millions trade CRO every day.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. It's the bottom of the hour, at least approaching that right now. Let's go live to U.S. Navy veteran Tom Peavy. Sir, first, thank you again for your service to our country. And for those that are watching, we know, obviously, my family and I met you in Alabama over the weekend at Freedom Fest. So let's start with that. What was that like to, see other veterans like yourself and then meet with maybe the Medal of Honor recipients? What's that like for the community?
I think it is one of those occasions that happens rarely, to get veterans together and have that range of experience from Medal of Honor winners to those who simply served. Gives one a pause to look at all of the service there. Look at that community effort that is put forth to recognize these veterans. Speaks much to that community and the organizers of the activities.
It was quite the event there. And then I know we ran into you pretty quickly, and yesterday we aired that brief interview. It was the 3 questions with the 3 answers. And I want to dive a little deeper into the answers that you shared with us. But let's just ask similar questions right here live, and we can talk about it. What are your thoughts about the United States of America today on this Wednesday, November 12th, 2025, sir, as a U.S. Navy veteran?
Sir, for many years, and I've seen the country change, we have moved from a nation where one could express themselves to a nation where it's difficult for individuals to express themselves without being accosted in some way. We've turned comfort in this country into a god. We expect to have comfort. It's difficult for people to understand that the world is not always comfortable. We've turned truth into a crime. We look at the media. We look at our daily interaction. And when truth is presented, somehow that becomes criminal. We've turned disagreement into intolerance. It's one thing to disagree. It's another thing to be intolerant. But you see, we have shifted the paradigm where there are agendas and people in the nation that want control of the language. They control the narrative and they control the media by controlling the language. If one is direct, the way to shut them down is to say that they're attacking someone. We're in this culture war where there's an effort to debase the traditional culture and reconstruct it in a way that it reflects the rebellious notions that are being part of the country's fabric. They're being inserted into the fabric. Saul Alinsky has these rules for radicals. Those 12 rules are being employed by individuals who want to change this country. The most frequently one of those 12 rules is ridicule. Ridicule is unfair, it's ugly, it diminishes the person, but it works. And it works because people will be silent out of fear of being ridiculed.
What's your solution to the country right now? I remember you were talking about President Trump and saying, well, he has 3+ years. We really have to stick to the mission. Can you talk to us about that? Because we don't want to see our country turn into New York City with what just happened there, with the indoctrination of more than 1 million people that went and voted for a communist person.
The effort is going to take time. Those on the right have to persevere. What has happened since the 1960s, there has been this gradual, slow march forward. Herbert Marcuse and his minions tried in the 1960s to change the culture. H. Rap Brown, Angela Davis, Bill Ayers, all of these were a part of that movement. They retreated into academia, and they've established themselves there. What we see currently is the fruit of that effort, the anti-Semitism on campus, the support of radical Islam. Those are all the seeds that were planted and have grown to this point. Our nation cannot survive with these seeds continuing to grow because these young people in academia are going to become our leaders, just as we just have seen in New York. That's the beginning place. Look at the enclaves that are available for votes in other locations. We did not get an Ilhan Omar by accident. Those individuals were purposefully settled in locations where they would be a voting bloc. And it was done during the Obama administration. And there were placement services that did this. It was not the federal government that placed these individuals. Catholic Charities, Lutheran placement services were involved in contractual efforts with the United States government to place individuals coming into the country. And they were put in enclaves, so they became a voting bloc. I don't know that generally in the population this is understood. But we must understand that when we put individuals into locations where there is a voting bloc, the left will capitalize upon that and use that as a foundation to establish themselves as a political identity. Mao Zedong was not immediately embraced in China. He lost battles. But he had a concept of the slow march. And this is the slow march that we see in this country from the 1960s to now, gradually over time, imposing one, then another of these leftist objectives, leads us to the place we are now.
The whole analogy with the frog boiling slowly, you know, you and I, man, we jumped out of that thing a long time ago. Many people that are watching us right now, we're free of that. The truth sets you free, right? So we're watching some of our country that have been indoctrinated, and it's the slow boil, as you're saying. But finally, let's just talk about this quickly. I mean, you know, a lot of people are saying we need to see more indictments within the deep state. We need to see some vast action, very quick action when it comes to what needs to be done to save our country outside of the wins that we see with the president. What are your thoughts about that when it comes to holding people accountable and really doing something kind of like Nayib Bukele in El Salvador did? He set that country straight, and he did it right away.
Well, we have to understand that when we make these efforts, the efforts will be met with opposition. Disagreement becomes intolerance, as I have mentioned earlier. I think we begin at a local level. All politics are local, as I have heard it said. If we begin at the grassroots level, the local level, and begin legislating through city councils, county commissions to bring about change that is needed in those areas, then we begin to address the problem and build on that. I believe if there's something done at the national level, as President Trump is currently attempting, that will result in successes. But when we look at the model that we are seeing in Los Angeles, Chicago, the local leaders are opposing this, and they're using that city, county, state autonomy to oppose those things that are being promulgated at the federal level. So the top down will work in some ways, but it comes across as being oppressive, and the left will capitalize on that. I think we build from the local level up, also using federal legislation to assist with that.
It's definitely a team effort, sir.
Yeah. We have to address homelessness. We have to address substance abuse. We have to address crime. And those are not going to be addressed at the federal level all the time. They are a local issue. We have to reestablish control of our streets. I was in Washington, D.C. recently. We took a bus trip into downtown D.C. as part of a reunion group. I was amazed that the National Mall looked more like a flea market than it did the National Mall. That has to change, and the president is working with the National Guard in that effort. But it has to be each community beginning to build and to eliminate the problems that are there. We can't have people standing at roundabouts, at traffic signals with signs, continuously panhandling, obstructing traffic, doing those kinds of things that disrupt the routine lives of other people, and not expect there to be consequences.
Yeah, there's a lot of hyper local stories out there like that, as I used to work in local TV throughout the country, and we see those kind of things happening. But yeah, from your vantage point, from our vantage point, actually, we're thinking, okay, President Trump and the team do this, do that, but great point from the local level as well. This is going to take a team effort. U.S. Navy veteran Tom Peavy, thank you again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you for your service to our country. Great to meet you over the weekend here in Alabama. Anything finally that you'd like to say to the people watching?
I think Mark Twain might have said it best concerning higher education and its influence on an individual in the country. I believe Twain said, I was educated once, and it took me years to get over it.
That's a great point.
And it may take us years to get over what has been indoctrinated into these young people coming along.
That's the truth right there, and hopefully it's quicker than that. But I hear you loud and clear. Great quote from Mark Twain, and thanks again for joining us, sir. Tom Peavy, the U.S. Navy veteran out of Columbus, Georgia. Thank you again for joining us.
And I appreciate the opportunity of being with you.
You too. God bless you, sir.
Take care.
Take care. God bless. 11:41, Wednesday, November 12th. A good time to replay a video from the White House that we started the broadcast with as the president delivered a great speech in Arlington, Virginia yesterday. There's a lot of news going on today, of course, too, but let's take a look at that video from just yesterday from the White House.
Today, to every veteran, we say the words too often left unsaid. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much. When danger came, when duty called, when Almighty God asked, who had the will and the strength to defend the land of the free, each and every American veteran stood up and said, here I am, send me, here I am. Generation after generation, America's warriors have left behind the comforts of home and family to face violence, evil, and death so that our families could know joy, goodness, and peace. The American dream surges forward, and our magnificent destiny stands more splendid and glorious than ever before.
All right, so it's 11:42. My name is Matthew Alvarez. This is RSBN Live, getting ready to see a number of things right here live on the network, including, of course, the 1 o'clock press briefing with Karoline Leavitt. Also, the vice president will be delivering a speech at a Make America Healthy Again summit. That's at about 12:30. And then in about 18 minutes from now on Capitol Hill, the United States House of Representatives session will be in session, and we're looking forward to seeing a vote from them in regards to the federal government shutdown, brought to you by none other than, drumroll please, Chuck Schumer. So once that is passed in the House, then it will go to the president's desk, and then we'll have a fully operational federal government. Everybody will be funded again. We can move on from that ridiculous thing that the Democrats have done to the people of our country. And there's still a lot of other stories to talk about, but we'll get to that in just a minute. As again, it's 11:43. Let's go to a few sponsors right here on Right Side, including All Family Pharmacy. Yesterday, of course, being Veterans Day, we honored, and we honor every day, the men and women who risked everything to protect our freedom, including the freedom to make your own choices about your health. So our great sponsor right there, All Family Pharmacy, has that special promotion for all of our viewers. Right now, they're giving you that 25% off site-wide with RSBN 25, that code. That ends today. So that's today's date, of course, the 12th. So you can get the medications your family needs. They offer more than 300 trusted prescription medications and supplements, all reviewed by licensed doctors and shipped straight to your door. There's also some more here. When you order from their supplement line, Operation Wellness, a part of every purchase is donated to the Children of Fallen Patriots. It's helping to fund education for the children of our fallen heroes. So you can take care of your family and give back to theirs as well. Don't miss the Veterans Day offer. Of course, yesterday being Veterans Day, today's the last day of the RSBN 25 code. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. This also brought to you by Monetary Gold. Every major financial disaster begins with a few simple facts that a lot of people ignore. So in 2007, it was the overextended credit, reckless lending, and that misplaced faith that quote unquote everything will hold. But then it didn't. So then banks failed, savings vanished, retirements were cut in half. The lesson was painful and unforgettable. Today, those same indicators, they're returning. Auto loan defaults are rising. Commercial real estate is strained. Private credit has grown far beyond its limits. And now people like Jamie Dimon, a man who understands money better than most, is warning that when you see one problem in the system, there are always others hiding behind it. These are not theories, they are patterns, and patterns repeat when people refuse to act. So for more than 25 years, Monetary Gold has guided Americans through every economic storm with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. And one constant truth as well, real value endures when paper confidence fades. So you can study the evidence and act on reason. You can give them a call, get that info kit on gold and silver. You see the number there, 888-617-7994, or go to RSBNforthegold.com today. All right, great sponsors there, including MyPillow.com. One more. Early Black Friday special, not bad. Always good to save some money. A 5-pack of these children's Bible story pillows for $29.98. So an early Black Friday special right there on mypillow.com/RSBN. Always good to have the Bible around, right? And I posted something earlier today as we hopefully go to mypillow.com and, purchase a number of great products there, hopefully in time, of course, for Christmas, which is still a bit out, of course. The post that I posted about an hour ago, the Bible is the cornerstone of liberty. Who said that? Thomas Jefferson, our great founding father, Christian patriot, third president, Thomas Jefferson, said the Bible is the cornerstone of liberty. MyPillow.com/RSBN. Some great sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thanks so much for sticking with us. We have a number of live interviews on the way and also live elements out there to cover in Washington, D.C. Of course, on Capitol Hill at about 12 o'clock will be the House session will start. We're hearing that it'll be a bit later tonight when the House will actually vote for the legislation that was passed in the Senate, that continuing resolution that will reopen the federal government, and then that legislation goes to President Trump's desk. So I'm thinking, if that's the way it's all going to pan out, it looks like by tonight or early tomorrow morning, the government will reopen, thanks to it being shut down, thanks to Chuck Schumer, of course. And then we'll be tracking all of the other stories that are happening. So specifically at 12:30, the Vice President will deliver a speech at a Make America Healthy Again summit. And then what we're all looking forward to as well, at 1 o'clock, the White House press briefing with the great Karoline Leavitt. And she does a great job holding the press accountable. It's kind of like, the press, we are supposed to hold leaders accountable, right? But for so many years, it's been from the left wing or from the fake news. So they're just coming at, various people with a false agenda, and then they'll protect those like Pritzker and others around and not report truth. The truth is, I believe right now that in order to save our country and for us to keep going for God, family, faith, freedom, all of it, country, the Constitution, it's simple. It's to win. It's the 20 core promises to the American people from President Trump and the RNC. It's to hold people accountable. We're seeing stories left and right coming out of the 2020 election. We know what Tulsi Gabbard said when she spoke at the press conference with Karoline Leavitt some weeks back about the subverting of the will of the American people. We see what the Biden regime has done. We see all of those types of people out there. Accountability has to happen. If it doesn't, what will happen in 2029 and into our future? Regardless of what president, we need to take care of business, and now's the time to do it. That's my personal opinion. I'm full on for this country and full on for this president to take care of business and support, because really at the end of the day, it's our freedoms at stake. We don't want to turn into London, England. We don't want that to happen here in this country. Anyway, enough of that stuff. It's all true. I stand by it, but let's move on with some of our coverage here as we're about 12 minutes out, or actually 11 minutes out from a live interview with RSBN host Christina Loren, who will bring us a report about the government shutdown. In the meantime, let's take one more commercial break. We're going to check out some news headlines. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.
Also, another thing I was thinking about when it comes to winning and saving our country, we know that within those 20 core promises by President Trump and the team there, number 19 is all about securing our elections. So there's a lot just within that, number 19 out of 20. And if you need a refresher on the 20 core promises, all you have to do is go to donaldjtrump.com. That's the 20 promises to the American people. So you can check out that White House playbook. You're getting a look into what the promises are. And one of them is ending the weaponization of the government. Another one is defending the Constitution. Of course, no men and women's sports, securing the election, sealing the border, all of the things. And so looking forward and cheering on, at the end of the day, people that stand for we the people. And I believe that's exactly what President Trump does for us. And looking forward to seeing more wins in that right. Speaking of the president and also looking live at the White House, tonight at 7:30 Eastern Time, the president will host a private dinner. And it looks like this will be on camera. So it's a private dinner, but it's also going to be open press. So at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, RSBN host Robert McNeely will bring you that coverage live right here in Studio B as we see what that's about tonight. Some people asked on Truth Social, any rumors about who it is? And I don't know at this point. I haven't been tracking all of the posts at this point and what's going on out there, but when it comes to that specific dinner. However, we are keeping our eye on, of course, the government reopening and then also other stories that are happening out there, specifically when it comes to the recent pardons that President Trump just did over the 2020 alternate electors from that whole fiasco in 2020. We know what happened there, and so that's why when you see President Trump's hat on the side, it says 45-47. That dash obviously is 46 as well. So let's move on as we have a number of interviews to get to. So RSBN host Christina Loren will join us here in just a minute. As we know that a little bit later, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, will be the press conference for Karoline Leavitt. So once again, let's go to the interview from earlier. Jairus Jackson, if you are joining us just now, he's with the Media Research Center. Let's go to that brief interview and take a look. And joining us now on Right Side Broadcasting Network is Jairus Jackson with the Media Research Center. Thanks so much for joining us, Jairus.
Appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Definitely. What's your overall take right now, 30,000-foot view on how you see the country? I know that's a very long answer possibly, but your thoughts about what's going on out there.
Let's say from a media perspective, which obviously being here at the Media Research Center, that's our domain. It's actually very interesting to see what you have going on in the country right now. You have the old guard dying media. These are your dinosaurs that will always fail to tell you the truth and always succeed in pushing a liberal agenda. These are your ABCs, your NBCs, your CBSs. They are dying. Their morning shows, their evening broadcasts, if you look at their viewership from just a few decades ago, it's down and it's continuing to crash. The legacy outlets have lied for so long to people, and people simply don't trust them. And as we saw with the last presidential election, we've seen a rise, whether that's podcasters, alternative media websites. People are finding that they can get the truth, not filtered, through various outlets, such as Right Side Broadcasting, for one. But it is interesting to see. Full disclosure, I'm 26 years old, and it's to see these dying broadcasters really clinching to their last bit of relevancy. To anyone who will listen, because I can promise you, for people my age, and I mean, I have nephews even younger than I, no one cares what NBC has to say. No one cares what CBS has to say. They are not the authority of truth that they still think they are, but unfortunately for them, the American people disagree.
Yeah, you are exactly right, 100%. That's exactly what's happening out there. So now what needs to be done with conservative media and any others that are just waking up and saying, hey, I got to get the truth out there?
Well, I'll tell you this, conservative media for the longest time thought that these people could be changed. And I am glad that we have woken up out of that sleep. I think where it will continue, their natural decline, because they're not going to change. So their natural decline will continue. We really don't need to stay as hyper-focused per se on them. Can you believe what NBC did tonight? Can you believe what CBS did tonight? Absolutely, that is important information and we need to know it. And we here at the Media Research Center, we're the best at doing that, newsbusters.org. We have the best info on that. But we need to continue to build our own infrastructure as well. Don't be concerned with the dying industry. Let's focus on what is going to be happening in the future. And that is people want to receive their information through podcasts, long form things, talking with people who you may disagree with. I would much rather watch, to be completely honest, I'd much rather watch someone on the right, it's a contrarian with some right-wing views, and someone on the left is a contrarian with some left-wing views. I'd much rather watch a podcast of them talking about issues than two, hardline people that I can already telegraph exactly what they're going to say before they open up their mouth.
Exactly.
So I think for the conservative movement, we need to focus on, much like Right Side is doing, we need to focus on our own echo chambers. We need to be prepared for the future, which is not turning on ABC or World News Tonight at 5:30 p.m. The future is people having the news in their pocket when they want it. And we also need to be clear of the new threat that is rising. A lot of people are getting their news nowadays, AI and a lot of these news aggregators. And our Free Speech America division has actually talked at great length about this. If you go to their website, freespeechamerica.com, they've talked ad nauseum about how whether it's OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini, Google's Gemini, they train all of their AI and they have all their news algorithms all from far left-wing sources. The BBC, Reuters, AP. When you go on and you ask a ChatGPT or you ask any of these language models, when you ask them a certain political question, they're going to get the answer from the Associated Press. Well, I can guarantee you if ChatGPT is pulling from the Associated Press and Reuters, it's not going to be favorable to anyone that has even the slightest right-wing opinion in the country. So I think older generations were concerned about, did you see the bias that was on CBS tonight? Did you see the bias that was on NBC tonight? That's still important. But we must pivot to see the bias that's built into these AI systems that we use every day, the bias that's built into these phones, the algorithms that are on these phones, the built-in news apps that just spew the same left-wing garbage that people are not watching on their TV.
Man, Jairus, that's some great awareness for our audience, for myself. I mean, I know some of that, but the way you just articulated it was perfect. Thank you for saying what you just did so we can be more aware of the left-wing, lying, false narrative information. Again, that's all attached to things like Marxism, communism, anti-Constitution, anti-God, family, country, freedom. That's an awesome point. Also, Jairus, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there at the Media Research Center with some of the last facts and figures that you have from some recent coverage?
Yeah, so it's been somewhat astounding that we've seen the Democrats, in the words of the media, that they have caved in regards to this government shutdown deal. Let's start with this, though, and this is a little point that I have to mention. A disservice that the NBC, the ABC, the legacy dinosaur networks have done throughout this entire process. America has become dumber at the end of this process after listening to them. They have yet to really, if you look at their coverage mostly, they talk about Republicans, they talk about healthcare, they talk about healthcare for illegal aliens. They do all of the Democrat spin that they can. They don't mention the bare fact to Americans most of the time that in the Senate, you need 60 votes to pass a continuing resolution. This is a massive underpinning fact. This is the difference between Republicans don't want to do something, a lie, and realizing the truth that Democrats have been holding all of this up. It is the Democrats. If your flight is delayed right now, it's because of the Democrats. If you have not received SNAP, it is because of the Democrats. And this little fact that you need 60 votes in the Senate to pass a CR is almost never mentioned by the legacy media outlets. The Republican Party, they have a 53-seat majority in the Senate right now. They don't have 60. So they need the Democrats. And I think it's hilarious that it took, as soon as Democrats flipped their votes, all of a sudden the government's able to reopen. So what does that tell you? That tells you that it was the Democrats from day one. I think we're on day 45 or so plus now. It was the Democrats from day one holding this up, because it's when they flipped their votes, not Republicans, when they flipped your votes, that's when things opened up. Now, our Newsbusters division, newsbusters.org, they have done fantastic, one-of-a-kind work throughout this entire shutdown. Published a study, I just want to make sure I get these numbers here correct, between October 1st and October 31st, the evening newscast of ABC, CBS, and NBC, 87% of their coverage favored the Democrats in regards to the shutdown. 87%. And when it comes to the Republicans, when it comes to just the Republicans, 12. So we have 83% favoring the Democrats, 12% favoring the Republicans, and then the rest of it just down the line coverage. It's amazing when you look at those facts and figures to see that they've basically been doing the Democrat bidding for all 40 plus days of this shutdown. And you wonder why people come out with polls. Oh, the Republicans in Congress, they should be worried. President Trump, he should be worried because everyone and their mother in America is blaming them for the shutdown. Well, you see where things like that comes from. It's not organic. It is not the truth. It is a byproduct of people being fed, whether that's through the evening newscast, whether that's through the AI, whether that's through the news algorithm built into their phone, literally built into the phone. That is why they are believing these lies. It is not because it is the truth. It is not because Republicans in Congress or the Trump White House has done anything wrong. It is because Americans at large are being lied to.
Jarris Jackson, you are a patriot rock star. Everything you're saying is right on point, and hope to have you again here on this network. Jarris Jackson with the Media Research Center. Thanks for what you do. Keep up the good work. Would love to have you on again.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. God bless.
God bless you. All right, so it's 12:02, 2 minutes after noon, of course, and looking forward to seeing a lot of live coverage here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. In the meantime, a few sponsors to get to, and then we'll go to our second live interview of the day coming up in just a second. First, let's go to kalshi.com/RSBN. If you'd like to download the app or just go to kalshi.com/RSBN. Let's see, what's the third way? You've got the QR code, you've got, the app. You can go download the app as well. So there's more than 1 million users on Kalshi, of course, betting, trading, or just checking out polls for various topics, everything from music to sports, entertainment, politics, faith, weather, all sorts of stuff on Kalshi. Again, more than 1 million users on there, and a lot more joining on kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, angelpaste.com. You can use that RSBN promo code. Gets you quite the discount off from a number of products, including what you see right there, the flagship product, the Miracle Cream. I actually saw a commercial for Angel Paste on Rumble just the other day as I was waiting to watch some various content on Rumble. And it's interesting. I don't have Rumble Premium. I should probably get that because, if you want to watch the commercials, great. If not, either way, it's all good. Angelpaste.com. Use that RSBN promo code. And speaking of Right Side, if you'd like to donate to us, all you have to do is text RSBN to 801-801. Also, rsbnetwork.com/donate is the place to go as we continue to grow and expand, as we cover all sorts of news stories here at Right Side. I know we've been a network that has really focused in on rallies, and as you guys know, We're covering a lot more content now, but it still takes money to keep it going here at Right Side, and for us to expand into maybe other projects that will be quite awesome here at the network. So 12:04 Wednesday, November 12th, looking at the front of the North Lawn there of the White House. Beautiful day in Washington. Let's go now to RSBN host Christina Loren, who will tell us more about this, government shutdown, the Schumer shutdown. Hopefully today will be the day, right, Christina?
The only thing it looks like at this point that could stop this vote from happening in favor of bringing back the government reopen immediately would actually be flight delays. The only thing that could keep this from happening, based on what I'm hearing right now, Speaker Johnson is very confident he has the votes, but flight delays are a real possibility, getting Republicans back to actually go in and cast that vote today. That could be a challenge. Right now, everything looks good, a lot of optimism. And so, that's huge, but I can't believe it took us this long to coin it the Schumer shutdown. That should have happened week one. Here we are 43 days later. Finally got it right. The Schumer shutdown, and that is poetic justice. It rolls right off the tongue. And that's exactly why we are in the situation we're in, because of Chuck Schumer. And Chucky wants to play chicken with people's paychecks in order to make a political point, instead of doing the most basic job of governance, which is keeping the lights on, keeping those lights on for the American people. And so I think that maybe they thought they were onto something that was going to be successful for them down the road. But most Americans on day 43 of the longest government shutdown in modern US history feel like this is the Democrats. They're responsible for what happened. They're responsible for $1.8 billion of GDP lost each week that the shutdown happened.
And to your point, this is, history. We've never seen our country have this long of a shutdown. Isn't it unprecedented times then? So if it's unprecedented times, unprecedented measures in the sense of, really winning for we the people out there. That's what we all want, Christina. I know that every time you've covered a rally, every time you're on this network, you're a patriot that just says, you know what, let's do this for God, family, country, and freedom.
Unprecedented partisan politics is what we are dealing with right now. And that is the word. I can't believe how much division is in this country. And it's because we're electing people like Chuck Schumer. We're electing people who can't go out there on their good merits and get things done for the American people. So they have to create the theater, political theater. And he's a terrible actor. You're a bad actor, Chuck Schumer. We can see exactly what you were trying to do. You were trying to hurt President Trump, but instead you ended up hurting the American people. And I think that it's trust for so many of us that is never going to be able to be regained again. If we continue on like this, nothing's going to get done in Washington. You think about the midterms, this is just a little foreshadowing of what we could be dealing with for 2 consecutive years. If we don't have people who want to cross party lines and actually make things happen for the people instead of political posturing, using this as an opportunity to make headlines for themselves.
You're speaking about the people there. This is going to, I'm almost feeling a little nauseated thinking about what I saw. So MS Now, right, for MSNBC, they have this commercial out there that's talking about, and it starts out with, we the people. This is about the people. And what are you watching RSBN and taking notes? It's not going to work, guys. The people know what's going on. They've seen through it. They're sick of the lies, and it's not just them. It's everybody really, except for conservative media. Let's be straight about that, right? So yeah, your thoughts about the MS Now thing that they're trying to pump up over there at whatever that network's called.
It's about as easy to believe that they truly believe in the Constitution and what it stands for at its core. It's easier to believe that Kamala Harris was qualified to be president than to believe that MS Now is truly for the people. Okay, and I think that's the biggest problem with messaging, because the media is painting this picture as if Republicans actually have something to do with what's happening right now. They do not. They were trying to get this CR package done. And when you have a CR package, you want to get it done as quick as possible. You don't want to attach anything that's going to hold it up. Well, Democrats said, hey, this is a perfect opportunity for us to stand up for morality and try to attach all these taxes that go with Obamacare and try to attach that to this reconciliation package that was just intended to keep the lights on. So the fact that that messaging is not front and center for every single American is sad. And that is the problem. So I think if we're really going to move forward in this country and work it the way that it should be, the way that our forefathers intended for this machine to run, there's going to have to be more people willing to step across the line on both sides. On both sides. And as Americans, we need to be electing people who are willing to work together to get the most important things done for our country, for our kids. You talk about SNAP benefits, just thinking about kids having to go hungry because Chuck Schumer wants to make a point. There's so much wrong with that. People should be infuriated right now. $1.8 billion a week lost in commerce. How is it that the whole country is not up in arms? I mean, I understand that some Democrats are coming over and saying, hey, yeah, Chuck Schumer shouldn't have done this. Most of the Democrats that went along with him, they shouldn't have. But the fact that it went on this long, unbelievable, never should have happened, never should have happened this long.
The people that voted for Zohran Mamdani, the 1 million plus, right? You have to be a bit indoctrinated and brainwashed in order to vote for a communist in the United States of America, first of all. Or you're just trying to go with the cool candidate. Oh, he seems like a cool guy and don't really realize what you're doing. That means your education system was terrible, which we know most of it was and still may be that now. But the point I'm making here is, Chuck Schumer and Cory Booker, AOC, Nancy Pelosi, Pritzker, Brandon Johnson, all these, that whole crew, they're basically they're cut from the same cloth. They got indoctrinated, or they may be just straight up evil, or both. And that's what we're dealing with in this country. So what is the solution to it? I mean, that's the $1 million question. A lot of people say, well, we need to hold people accountable in the deep state. Makes sense. We need all of the transparency from our government to happen. We want that too. We want the wins to keep happening, but we don't want our freedoms to be taken. That's the main thing, is the constitutional rights of this land from now until forevermore. So, I mean, what's your opinion on that, Christina? What if, in 2031, we have an administration that starts clamping down on people just like you and me because we're talking freely about how much we love God, family, and country? That's what it's like in some other countries, and we don't want it here.
No, that's what sets us apart. That's what makes this country so special. Because we know that we don't just serve ourselves. We're not just serving this country. We serve a higher power. We serve God, and we help other countries around the world. That's who we are in America. It's hard workers who volunteer to stand up and serve in the military. What's happening right now, the Democrats, they are not getting by on their own good merits. They're not doing enough good for the American people. And so they are making things up. They're creating problems that they can all of a sudden be the savior to step in and fix. And they're telling people, and this is really the case in New York City. You look at the socioeconomic demographics in that city, they're telling people who live in the poor areas that the people in the rich areas are taking from them. That's the messaging that's going out. And it's easy to believe, especially if it doesn't favor you and you want to blame somebody for the problems that you have. But that's where they are right now. They're making problems that they can step in and fix, but they're just going to make the country even worse in the process. And I think, honestly, if this country is going to run like a well-oiled machine, we're just going to have to let them dig their own graves, because people aren't turning around on their own. And so when Mamdani destroys New York City, or he can't fulfill any of his promises, that's going to have to show people that this isn't going to work. We watched Gavin Newsom in California. We're going to continue to see what happens as more people step up and push their socialist agenda that we've seen time and time again in history just doesn't work. So I think they're going to continue to dig their own grave, but as long as they have control of the media, it's going to be a real uphill battle for all of us. And I just can't say enough about how proud I am of President Trump for being steadfast. He wasn't going to cave to Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer should know that by now. President Trump is a man of action, and he is a man of his word. And he has showed us through his actions that he cares about this country. He's not doing all these things for himself. He's doing it for the country. And I don't think there's anybody who can make a valid case against that at this point in time.
On top of that, we're coming against the status quo of the mainstream media here in conservative media. We're people that are with experience in local television as well through many cities across the nation. I know you've worked in a number of markets, so have I, Robert McNeely as well. So, and there's other conservative media outlets out there, of course. But the point is that we're just not listening to what the left is saying anymore within the media framework. And also, the thing about that is the authority that the left-wing media always had, and people believed it. That's the thing, because they sat and they looked maybe like me a little bit and good evening, welcome, and here we are. And this is the news today, which were a bunch of lies, but it seemed like, wait, they must have a connection to the government and they're telling us the truth. And that's what we are trying to we're coming against that status quo. And then you have these great reports by James O'Keefe and Alex Jones at InfoWars. And you have these people out there, Nick Sordor and Nick Shirley, Robert McNeely, Christina Loren, Matthew Alvarez. Let's keep the list going on. Steve Bannon, the late, great Charlie Kirk, and so many people, Gateway Pundit, all of these things. Because we're saying, guess what? We're with the people. We're with God, family, country, and freedom. We're not going to lie to the people. We want to share exactly our experiences. And you know what? They resonate with people like you, Christina. They resonate with us because we are them. We're the ones that went out there and interviewed them day in and day out at all of those rallies. I mean, think about the things that you've heard from people out there. Can you just recall right now, out of all those interviews that you've done at rallies with President Trump's team, what did you hear out there? Let's just remind everybody that this isn't just, okay, we're a year into the presidency, we're winning, but what are we doing this for?
It's funny. I heard from every type of person, from every walk of life. I heard from so many different people. They all had a different reason for loving President Trump. You love him because he's transparent. You love him because he's good for the country. But I talked to people who had nothing, people who were on the lowest socioeconomic rung, who were there to support Trump because they believed that he would turn around our country. I talked to people who were incredibly wealthy, who wanted to support President Trump for the same reason, because he was going to turn around our country and that would help everybody, the tide that lifts all ships. But I heard from people having fun. It was a fun family atmosphere. People chanting "Daddy Trump, Daddy Trump," and I could just see a smile on his face as I picture him watching our coverage, because our coverage allowed him to see the real love that the people have for him. We actually got out there and talked to people, which is something that a lot of networks don't actually do. We gave the common man, the everyday American, a voice and a direct pipeline to the president to let him know from their mouth right to his ear what they needed in this country, what would make this country run better, not just for them, but for everybody, because we're all in it together. And it was just the most beautiful opportunity. And I just think that what our founder, Joe Seals, did was not just a gift to the country and everybody who watches us, like-minded people like us who can engage in these conversations with us, but I think what he did was a gift for President Trump. Because I don't know that President Trump would know how much he is loved and cherished around this country in all 50 states by people of all different walks of life if it wasn't for RSBN. And so when it comes to him needing a confidence boost, when everybody was tearing him down on the media, RSBN was there to show the truth. And I think it comes from Joe Seals' servant's heart, wanting to expose truth, wanting to expose love, wanting to show what's right. We don't have enough of that in this world.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I mean, since 2015, that's what's been happening. Every rally, every event, every press conference, even back when the 2020 election situation, I mean, there was coverage in Arizona. I mean, all of the coverage that we've seen here, and then you and I have been part of, I've started in 2022 in September. And I remember being at one of the rallies in Pennsylvania, in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and President Trump said, "Where are those guys? Every time we do a rally, it's like a Super Bowl." And President Trump like this, "Where's RSBN?" And we were like waving, oh my gosh, I mean, That's the leader of the free world saying what's up to us. You know what I mean? We're a grassroots organization, a grassroots news company now, growing and believing for the best, just like anybody would. But really the crux of it, the whole thing was, to your point, where Joe's heart is at. It's what you said, for truth, for freedom, for the right side of history, you know? And there's been a lot of years as we reminisce a little bit today, Christina. Usually we do the news and we interview and all that stuff, but it's nice to talk about it again because we have to kind of remember that heartbeat of America. The heartbeat of America when we saw President Trump in the first administration, when he was outside of at Mount Rushmore doing the July 4th festivities and the jets flew over, and all of the speeches and all of the political ads that were really based and on point, and all the love we have for someone that's going to step up for we the people. So from here on out, we don't forget those speeches. We don't forget when President Trump said at a CPAC event that I was at, I remember my wife was with me too, he said, we're going to dismantle the deep state or obliterate, the deep state and dismantle the globalists, that kind of thing. So we still remember all of that, and we want to see these kind of things done so we can hold on to this thing in 2029 and say, you know what? The golden age just happened, and hopefully it's here for a long, long time, right?
Through Vance or whoever it's going to be, but we've got to keep Republicans in power as long as we can, because the other side is more and more scary every time I look.
Exactly. I mean, we can talk about securing our elections as well. Number 19 out of 20 out of the core promises to the American people. So we know that, the voter identification and same-day voting, no paper ballots, no mail-in ballots. Yes to paper ballots, no mail-in ballots. But anyway, Christina Loren, thanks again for spending some time with us here on Right Side. 2 days in a row. Kind of cool to see you. 2 days in a row from Tennessee.
Thank you. I love speaking with you. And just to let you know, and the viewers as well, being a part of this network, just having an opportunity to do this is what I want to do. Like, you and I are here because we want to be here. We don't have somebody telling us what to say. We are doing this because this is what we love. This is what we believe in. And those of you who join us every day, who comment, we are grateful to you. And they say such sweet things about you, Matthew. I know you don't get to read it, but I will tell you this. The audience loves you. And if you're writing right now, if you're chatting with us, say something nice about Matthew Alvarez today. The man deserves it. He works hard, does a great job. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Right back at you, Christina Loren, and of course, Robert McNeely and Megan Kohler, who has appeared with us live. So thanks again to Christina Loren, live from Music City, USA, Nashville, Tennessee. All right, so it is 12/22, Wednesday, November 12th. A little bit of reminiscing there. And there's a million stories we can talk about, we can dive into. But in the meantime, before we get into some of that, we do know that at 12:30, the Vice President will be speaking at a Make America Healthy Again Summit. And then, of course, at 1 o'clock, we'll see the great Karoline Leavitt. Scheduled a little bit later, we have a couple more live interviews. We'll get to those in just a bit. Let's go to All Family Pharmacy in the meantime, great sponsor here at Right Side. All right, so yesterday, of course, Veterans Day, but this Veterans Day sale ends today. And, of course, we honor the men and women who risked everything to protect our freedom. I mean, without our military, our country would not exist. Thank God for George Washington and that U.S. Army back in the day, right? Back in 1776, across that Delaware River, So before we continue on All Family Pharmacy, let's actually go to the Vice President, who I'm being told is speaking or getting ready to speak right now.
Is that? Thank you all. Welcome, Mr. Vice President. And I want to thank everybody here for taking this day to convene such an extraordinary group of people, a really unprecedented caliber of people who are in this room today. And, one of the great things about working for President Trump is that we've been able to recruit people like Chris Klump and Marty McCary and Jay Bhattacharya and Mehmet Oz and people at every level of the agency, many of them who are stepping away from billion-dollar companies to come and work for us. not because they're looking for position or power or security, because they see this as a generational opportunity to change our country and put us on a better course. And a critical part of us achieving that goal is the partnership with private industry, with the entrepreneurs, the innovators who are trying to do the same thing. And you come out of that tradition. You really have an extraordinary life. But how do you see that in other parts of the government, this partnerships that we've been able to make with private industry?
Yeah, well, first, Bobby, thanks. It's good to see you, and great to be with everybody. It's an amazing, I think, not just a event, but really a movement that you put together, and it's been a critical part of our success in Washington. So thank you for having me here for just a little bit. When Bobby invited me to speak, I, of course, said that I was honored to come and happy to do it, but only if we did an interview as opposed to a speech, because with a speech you have to think about what you're going to say, where, you know, an interview, I just have to answer your questions. I don't have to think at all to do an interview. That's great. So one of the, just to answer that question, so obviously if you go back to like the MFN stuff, meaning most favored nation drug pricing, that really has happened because the president and Bobby and a number of members of the team have been actually working with private industry to lower the cost of prescription drugs for American citizens. Now, it would be great if we could get congressional Democrats to actually do something meaningful with us, because you would think, you know, you think of Democrats, they like to say that they're for the working people against the big pharma companies. So you would think that legislatively they would want to work with us, but it's actually been hard to get them to work with us. So we've had to sort of go outside of the system and work with private industry to do some of this stuff. And I think you guys have done an incredible job with that. But if you look at a lot of our most important health initiatives, they have come through partnership with private industry in some form or another. And I also think that there's a mindset shift where you mentioned some of the people like Marty, like Jay, who have been such a critical part of what you've been doing. The thing that I love about the team that Bobby has put together is, yes, a lot of them have a sort of private sector mindset. They just want to get things done. They don't care about the bureaucracy or sort of, they don't care about all the people saying no in government, because as Bobby and I have learned, there are a lot of people saying no, you're not allowed to do that, or no, you shouldn't do that. And we just have to punch through that in order to achieve results for the American people. But I also just love that Bobby has put together a team of people who are not terrified to think about things in new and interesting ways. And if you think about what has been so broken about the public health bureaucracy in this country for years, for decades, generations even, it's that people think in incredibly conventional ways. And if you bring them a non-conventional idea, their automatic assumption is, no, 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 we're not allowed to talk about that, much less fund something related to that. And I think it's maybe the most important thing of all the specific initiatives that you guys have worked on effectively. The most important thing is that your team is willing to ask questions that people in government haven't been asking in a long time. And if you think about how unhealthy the American population has gotten over the past 20 or 30 years, you're not going to fix that problem unless you have people at the table who are asking different questions than the ones that were asked 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the... Thank you. One of the interesting things about working with this president is that, you know, we're coming into these bureaucracies that have constructed these orthodoxies, and it's just a series of very narrow Overton windows.
Absolutely.
You're not allowed to bring the conversation out of that, or you get destroyed.
That's right.
And now we're working for a president who just takes a bulldozer to Overton windows and does, and like shocks us every day, and then we go, okay, well.
That's exactly right. That is a good summary of Donald J. Trump, is that he takes a bulldozer to Overton windows every single day. But it had to happen. It just had to happen. And if you look at so many of the things that are happening on the public health side, I mean, you know, one of the criticisms that Bobby will always get, and I always think it's such bullshit, excuse my language, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that. It's probably covering, you know, I apologize to everybody who's watching live on Fox News. But hopefully they were able to bleep that out. But anyway, is sometimes there's this attack where people say, well, you know, this or that conclusion is not supported by the science, or this or that conclusion is a conspiracy theory. And science, as practiced in its best form, is that if you disagree with it, then you ought to criticize it, and you ought to argue it against it, but you can't shut down the debate. And that really is, if you look at all of the big public health debates that we've had in this country over the last 20 or 30 years, it doesn't bother me that they disagreed with something that I believed or disagreed with something you believed or any of you. It's that they tried to silence the people who were saying things that were outside the Overton window. And as we found out the hard way over the last few years, it was very often the people who were outside the Overton window who were actually right and all the experts were wrong.
Yeah. I had a conversation with Marty McCary the other day, and he reminded me that over the Royal Society, the building, the portal for the Royal Society in London, which is the oldest scientific society in the world and the most prestigious.
Of course.
It says, question everything.
Yes.
And that is, that's what science is. It's recognizing that convention is often wrong, and that the people who make advances on science, almost 100% of the times, are people who are willing to challenge orthodoxies and advance heterodoxies and talk about new ways of thinking. And that, these very ossified bureaucracies that now make up the so-called medical establishment are fortified against that kind of change.
That's absolutely right. And I mean, to put a slightly different spin on it, a lot of the times the people who are discovering things interesting and new are a little weird, right? I mean, American society for a very long time had a willingness to accept unconventional, slightly odd people inside some of these industries, inside some of these bureaucracies. I mean, I've been reading a lot in the past couple of weeks about von Neumann, the Hungarian scientist who came to the United States and was very important in the Manhattan Project. And what I keep on finding myself thinking, I mean, this is a brilliant guy. This is, one of the, I think it was Edward Teller or Oppenheimer or another, the Manhattan Institute people said about von Neumann that von Neumann was talking to his 3-year-old. And then he realized that he used the same skill von Neumann did when talking to a 3-year-old as he did with everybody else, because he was so far above everybody else in terms of brilliance. But then you read about this guy, and I think to myself, half of the shit that this guy said would have gotten him canceled or would have gotten his career ruined or would have had his life ruined. There is no way that this country is going to advance unless we're comfortable with people who are willing to challenge orthodoxy. And that's what I think got so broken, not just about the scientific bureaucracy, but probably it was worse in the scientific area than in most other places, is we've got to be comfortable challenging some of these old orthodoxies. And part of that is welcoming people who are a little unusual, because unless you do that, like, you're not going to solve America's problems with McKinsey consultants who say everything the right way all the time. No offense for the McKinsey consultants, because but many of whom are very brilliant people, but you need the consultant mindset. You also need the person who is just thinking about an idea because it's interesting and it's fascinating and it's not being focused on enough in the right way.
You and I have talked a lot about Appalachia, and both of us come from families that are intertwined personally and politically in Appalachia. You're kind of a golden child of Appalachia. You came out, you went to Ohio State, right?
That's right.
Yale Law School, a successful, uber successful business, a best-selling author, U.S. Senator, and now Vice President of the United States. But it's almost a kind of tragic reminder of the lost potential of almost everybody else in Appalachia, not only for poor health, it's got the worst health data of any region in the country, the highest cardiac disease, the highest obesity, the highest diabetes, the highest stroke rates, but also addiction, alcoholism, and suicide. It leads the nation for those things. And so I know it's something that you've spent a lot of time thinking about. How do we, because if we can solve problems in Appalachia, we can solve them for the whole country.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the public health stuff in particular is very bad. And if you look at where life expectancy has gotten the worst in the United States, Appalachia is sort of at the top of the list. And the way that I realized this, actually, so my dad died of cancer a few years ago. And it was one of these sort of super aggressive cancers, came on very unexpectedly, and then all of a sudden he was gone a few months later. But I was talking with my wife, with Usha, about this, and Usha, she was like, have you ever had like a really important male figure in your life survive to the age of 70? Like, so I'm looking and it's like, okay, my grandfather died at 67 from a very preventable illness, but 67 from a very preventable, very treatable illness. I think all of my aunts or all of my uncles, and not a single one of them that I could think of made it to 69. Maybe one of them made it to 70 or 71. And it kind of hit me that if you grow up in Appalachia, you are used to losing the people that you love very, very early on. And you want to talk about like populism, and you want to talk about people being pissed off. Well, yeah, people are pissed off when they don't have good jobs. And people are pissed off when things disappear and move overseas. And people are pissed off when they feel like, you know, other countries are being prioritized over the United States of America. And all of that is part of the populist resentment of the past, 20 or 30 years in American politics. You know what really pisses people off? When they realize that their loved ones are dying much sooner than everybody else. And that is a big part of the story of what's going on in Appalachia and why I think so many people in Appalachia feel left behind. I mean, my story, obviously, it's been, like you said, I'm like the golden boy. Things have just worked out for me in this really incredible way. I feel so lucky and so grateful for it. But I also feel a certain sense of guilt because there are a lot of people who grew up in families like mine who haven't had an easy life and who haven't had all this economic opportunity and who haven't had, a person that they've fallen in love with and they've been able to sort of build a stable, nice family like me and Usha have been able to build. And that gives me a sense of purpose because I want those people to have the same opportunities that I've had. But it also gives me a great sense of anger because we never should have gotten to the point that we are today. And the reason that we have is because of failed leadership, and it's failed leadership over generations. And by the way, you talk about Appalachia, you were talking about people who, though they don't have much, would take the shirt off their back and give it to a complete stranger because that's what you do. If you go back to America's biggest wars, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, which are the counties that filled their draft quotas with volunteers instead of with draftees? It's very often the parts in deep Appalachia where you've got grinding poverty, but you've also got this incredible love of country. So if any place in this country deserves not to be left behind, it's Appalachia. But on the public health stuff in particular, the numbers don't look good. And it's one of the reasons why I'm such a big supporter of what you're doing, because these are people who deserve to live better, healthier lives, but they really have been left behind by this country's leadership.
Talk a little bit about how MAHA has affected you personally. My grandchildren go to school with your children. And the MAHA, I think, has gotten a lot of people thinking about how they raise their kids, what they feed them, et cetera, how they go shopping. And then maybe to talk a little bit about the political impacts of MAHA.
Yeah, so there are so many different ways I could talk about this. I mean, one, I just met, Bobby's family backstage, or at least some of them, and I kept on shaking hands with various people. And I'm like, well, you're an Irish Catholic, so it makes sense that you've got, a dozen or so people backstage. But I love that. I love big families. But, so one, my wife, she's probably one of the original MAHA people, though I don't think that she would have ever used that phrase. Because I remember, our oldest son is 8 years old, and when babies typically eat solid food around 6 months of age. And I remember when he started eating solid foods, and I'm like, awesome, let's give him some cupcakes and ice cream. And my wife was like, no, let's give him carrots and applesauce here. So she was already thinking about health and nutrition in a way that was frankly kind of foreign to me, and that I think is very common among the MAHA crowd. Like, you guys are asking the right questions. What are we putting into our bodies? Where was it sourced from? If we're eating animal-based protein, is it coming from a place where the animals are treated the right way? If we're putting medications into our body, are we actually confident that they're doing the thing that they're supposed to do, that they're safe and effective? I just think this whole thing is about asking very critical questions about what we're putting into our bodies, into the bodies of our kids. And it's really affected me in a very profound way, and how I think about my own nutrition, about particularly how I think about what my kids are taking. And, you know, I'm like one of these crazy people. The one way in which I'm more instinctively Maha is that if I have, like, you know, a back sprain or I slept, you know, weird and I woke up with back pain, I don't want to take ibuprofen. Like, I don't like taking medications. I don't like taking anything unless I absolutely have to. And I think that's another Maha style attitude. It's not anti-medication. It's anti-useless medication. We should only be taking stuff. We should only be giving our kids stuff if it's actually necessary, safe, and effective. And I think that's an attitude that's really beneficial to the entire country, because we do have, you've talked about this as eloquently as anybody, we do really have an obesity epidemic in the United States of America. I think a big part of that is not asking where our food comes from. We really do have medications that I don't think, maybe they're not solving the chronic disease epidemic. Maybe some of them are even causing the chronic disease epidemic. We've got to be asking more critical questions about what we're putting into the bodies of our kids. And I don't think we were doing that until this movement came along.
You know, the job of the vice president has been called the worst job in the country. and I think we're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. I think for some vice presidents that's been true. And I know that President Johnson, during my uncle's tenure, felt that he'd been sidelined, and I think Spiro Agnew and Gerald Ford felt the same way with Nixon. But then you had presidents like, you had Vice President like Dick Cheney, who seemed to be actually running the country, and then you had these, you know, relationships with...
Not very well, it turns out.
With, yeah, we agree on that. But Al Gore and Bill Clinton and Mondale and Carter, who had close personal friendships, you have an amazing job because you have a president who clearly puts tremendous faith in you. He relies on you. He's given you an extraordinary retinue of responsibilities. Talk a little bit about how your relationship with the president has evolved.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And it's clear to all of us in the cabinet how much affection that he has for you and how much he relies on your wisdom.
Well, it's interesting. You're exactly right that the job of vice president is incredibly contingent on the president that you're serving under. And you could have a president who effectively just passes off big swaths of responsibility. You could have a president who delegates. You could have a president who has no trust in their vice president, Kamala Harris, and so it doesn't go very well for that particular vice president. But I think there are two ways that I try to think about my job with the President of the United States. Number one, he requires honest counsel. In other words, if I have an opinion on something, whether I agree or disagree with the administration position, it's really, really important that I talk to the president about it. He doesn't want yes men. And I think that's one of the reasons why you guys have a great relationship, is because you're always thinking about how can I actually give the president the best counsel. But then the second thing is, when the president makes a decision, your job is to execute. It's not to run to the papers and say, well, actually, I disagreed with this decision, or, run to the Congress and badmouth the administration. It's to execute. And I think the reason why the president has trust in me is because, yes, I absolutely tell the president what I think about a given issue, but I also recognize I'm the vice president, he's the president, and when the president of the United States makes a decision, it's time to go and get it done. And I think in part because I get things done, right? I mean, sometimes Congress doesn't cooperate, sometimes the private sector doesn't cooperate. Like, I'm not saying any of us have a batting average of 100, but what I think all of us who have earned the president's trust do is that when the administration makes a decision, when he makes a decision, we actually go out and get it done. And that's why this job has been so empowering for me, is because the president trusts me. He knows I'm going to give him honest counsel. He knows that if he asks me to go get something done, I'm going to try my best to actually go and do it. And that's why we have a good partnership. I think it's why the administration has been so effective this time around, is because there are a lot of people with a very wide diversity of opinions, but we get out there and we try to do the best job for the American people and the President of the United States. And because of that, there's a lot of trust and there's a lot of affection in the cabinet. I mean, you've seen this. Yeah. I've seen this. But when we're sitting in there and the cameras are off and we're just talking about an issue, there is a deep level of affection and trust between all the senior members of the team. I don't know how it's possible to do this job without it, but I know it's why we've been so successful the past 10 months.
Now we've come to the lightning round.
Great.
Marine Corps workout or Pete and Bobby challenge?
That's tough, man. So it's. I would say I would say Marine Corps workout, especially for me. The one thing, so I can do like 5 dead hang pull-ups. You know, I have longer arms. I'm a little fatter than I should be, and you know, especially like 10 years or so ago, I got a little out of shape, and so it's actually the Marine Corps like physical fitness test has been an incredible guidepost to me getting back in shape. And it's basically you run 3 miles, you do 100 crunches, or now instead of crunches they do it's this weird planking exercise that's a core exercise, and then there's pull-ups. But I felt like that's been a very good focus. The Pete and Bobby challenge is for people who are in as good a shape as Pete and Bobby, which is not yet me, but that's my goal. My goal is to get there.
Who's the funniest guy on the cabinet?
Well, obviously, the President of the United States. Yeah. I mean,
beside him.
So beside him, I mean, look, we all have different views on this. My personal vote for funniest person outside the president is probably Marco.
Yeah, Marco.
He has an incredible sense of humor. He's got great comedic timing.
Rival.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, you know, there are a couple others. Look, very good sense of humor among the cabinet. There's a lot of funny people. I think Marco is the funniest outside the president.
He says something that makes everybody laugh.
Correct.
At least once during the cabinet meeting.
That's right. Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw this video circulating on social media, but you know, the president met the president of Syria, al-Shara, in the Oval Office a couple of days ago, and you know, he asked him, he's like, "Well, how many wives do you have?" And it's just like, oh, what an amazing question. Amazing comedic timing. There are layers to it. There's like a meta humor to it. It's just, anyway, you know, but we got a lot of good humor in the cabinet.
One of the funniest moments in any cabinet meeting, President Trump had them bring in a full-size picture of himself with Putin. And when they were in Hawaii, and he's very tall, and Putin was very short, Putin came up to about here, and he said, you know what I said to him? He said, I've had it up to here with you. Okay.
I remember that.
There are 8 presidents from Ohio. How many can you name?
Oh.
This is unfair.
That is a totally unfair question. I regret coming to this event based on that question. Okay.
None of them, well, with one exception.
Okay, so obviously U.S. Grant.
Yeah.
I have a particular affinity for him. Both of us have beards. Rutherford B. Hayes.
Good.
Was Cleveland, Ohio, or is he somebody else?
I don't think Cleveland was.
Okay. The problem is a lot of the Ohio ones are, frankly, the range of presidents where nobody can name them.
Yeah, they
right?
all are.
So it's
Except
like most people can like go up to Jackson, and then they know there's sort of Lincoln and Grant, and then there's like, you know, a black hole of presidents. Those are the Ohio presidents. Please don't judge my home state, because it was just it was a different time in the country. So the answer is apparently 2.
Did you read Chernoff's biography of Grant?
I did. Incredible. One of my best friends actually gave it to me 4 or 5 years ago. Incredible book.
It is.
And he was an incredible guy.
Made you fall in love with Grant.
Absolutely. And people, you know, he was attacked after he died by a lot of his political opponents. A lot of what I learned in grade school and high school history about Ulysses S. Grant is actually fake. He was a great general. He was also a great president.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Paul.
Just send it on down the line. Hello, Pittsburgh, steel mill workers. Let me thank you for your time. You work a 40-hour week for a living.
Lunch and light refreshments.
Well, lunch and light refreshments, that sounds pretty good. That was a great event there for the Making America Healthy Again Summit. Of course, seeing the Vice President and RFK Jr., the Health and Human Services Secretary, of course, doing a great job in the administration right now. It's 12:49, Wednesday, November 12th. I was having a nice discussion with some of our production crew. Maybe we'll talk about that in just a second. Why not? Before we get to some of our sponsors, it's official. The U.S. Mint will officially stop minting pennies. So pennies, right? No more. Today, the last penny will be minted. So 1 penny costs the U.S. taxpayer 37 cents. So again, it's official. The U.S. Mint will officially stop minting pennies. Today's the last day that pennies will be minted. Let's see what year this is. If I've got decent vision here, 2017. Quite the year, 2017, when President Trump was inaugurated. Quite the speech there, too, in Washington, D.C. All right, looking live there. Looking forward to seeing Karoline Leavitt at the press briefing at that podium. We have some live interviews coming up, and if it's during the press briefing, we'll record them and air them at a later date, which would either be later today or tomorrow or maybe Friday. In the meantime, let's go through some of our sponsors, and then I'll share with you a little bit of inside baseball and some of what we were talking about here at the network. All right, let's go with All Family Pharmacy. Of course, yesterday was Veterans Day, and of course, we honor the men and women who risked everything to protect our freedom. Without our military, we would not have a country. We would not have our freedom, as you guys know. Our great sponsor, All Family Pharmacy, has that special promotion for all of our viewers. It ends today, but it's 25% off site-wide. So it's the RSBN 25 promo code. You can get the medications your family needs. They offer more than 300 trusted prescription medications and supplements, all reviewed by licensed doctors and shipped straight to your door. And there's actually more. When you order from their supplement line, it's called Operation Wellness. Part of every purchase is donated to Children of Fallen Patriots, helping fund education for the children of our fallen heroes. So you can take care of your family and, of course, give back to theirs. And you don't have to miss this Veterans Day sale. It's right now until the end of the day. I believe that would be right at 11:59, pushing 12 o'clock midnight. But RSBN 25 is the promo code. Let's go to our next sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. I believe that will be Monetary Gold. Is that right, guys? All right, let's go to Cove Pure, covepure.com. Drink pure, live pure, Cove Pure. You see that right there on your screen. You get a $200 coupon off for a limited time. Now, again, for those of you that like tap water, this is not a commercial for you or a sponsor for you, but not many people do, right? So 99.9% of the chemicals and the stuff that gets put into tap water, goes through those old pipes and right out the tap. Ugh. Well, that all gets taken away when it comes to this filter here. So 99.9% of it. So it tastes better, no aftertaste. It's healthier for you. You also have that temperature control where it's cold, warm, or hot. And you get, again, that $200 off with that promo code. So just go to covepure.com/RSBN. Drink pure, live pure, Cove Pure. I've got the Stanley right here for some of that as well when it comes to not drinking tap water. Let's go to one of our other sponsors here on Right Side. Tax Network USA, 800-357-1415, tnusa.com/RSBN. You can settle your back taxes today, or if you don't have all the funds to do that, you'll get on a plan and get some financial peace of mind. Always a good thing to do. Great long-time sponsor here at Right Side. Tax Network USA, tnusa.com/RSBN. All right. We're seeing the podium there. Of course, now 1 o'clock is the scheduled start time for the press conference. As you guys know, sometimes it's 1:05, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 1:55. We're going to stay here with you. Got a few live interviews coming up as well. Before we get to that, a little inside baseball just for kicks. We'll keep it general, but I was speaking with the production crew a little bit earlier about spirituality and faith and that kind of thing. One of them was talking to me about some things, and I'm not going to name names, of course, but we're talking about just, I was saying about how we have faith, we believe that God exists, but to experience God is another thing as well, through God's presence. And it's difficult if you think just with your mind and you go, well, I believe the Bible because I was brought up believing the Bible, and that's just why I believe it. That's step one. Step two, I believe with the Holy Spirit, the baptism of the Holy Spirit, I believe in that. But the point is, also just experiencing the presence of God, and communing with God. And is that not what he wanted from day one with Adam and Eve? Before the fall there, they were walking in the cool of the day. They were together, right? And that's, God is a family guy. He wants all of us to be part of his family. And I know this is getting a little bit more personal. It is what it is. And you know me, guys, I kind of roll with it sometimes, but it's kind of like this. As a dad would want to embrace his kid, or his wife wants to embrace their child, right? I have a 1-year-old baby. She's awesome. I embrace my kid. She's my baby. And that's the same thing I believe for God. He wants to embrace you guys. He wants to embrace all of us. And I believe he does that through the power of the Holy Spirit. You can sense his presence. And I'm not just talking about some emotion, right? Anyway, he's our Father, and this is what it's about. That's why I say this is about God, family, country, and freedom. And I say there's a lot of news stories to cover. There is. And right now, am I in front of a politician to ask them a question, or am I digging deep into a story right this second? No, but I am covering what's going on there in Washington, D.C., and thanks for listening. We're in this together. We want our country to be saved, and we know that there's no better president to be in the office right now than President Donald J. Trump to get the job done. There's a lot of things, of course, people are talking about out there, and we want to see all the wins. We want to see, whether it's when it comes to the Epstein files, whether it comes to the deep state indictments, to save our country. We want the 20 core promises for the American people to be fulfilled, securing our elections, defending the Constitution, and on. So there's just a lot that we want to see done. And we're seeing a lot of it done, but, we're covering what's going on here at the network as well. And I look forward to more news reporting, to be really straight with you guys. Because I know there's a lot of commentary, a lot of opinion here at the network, which is great. But I'd like to dive into some stories. Why don't we just dive in, generally speaking, to what's going on right now? So we know that this is day 43 of the Schumer shutdown, okay? So Chuck Schumer is the one that started this whole thing. They went to the Republicans with this list of demands. You guys must supply the money for Medicare and health insurance for all of these illegal immigrants. Also, fund NPR and PBS once again. Again, there was a list of demands as we're taking a live look there at the reporters as we get ready to see Karoline Leavitt. But in the meantime, those were not demands that the Republicans were going to just give into. It was anti-President Trump's agenda. So then that was the birth of the Schumer shutdown. It's lasted 43 days. We're hearing that the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, will be he already said that tonight he believes that it will be over for the Schumer shutdown. So that means the federal government will reopen, the House will pass that, and then the president will sign that into law, that legislation. And then we're back on track with being fully operational when it comes to funding for our government. So that's just one story that we're talking about right now. But there's many others out there, right? We need, if we had local news reporters in Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Atlanta, Dallas, Austin, wherever, that are on the right side of history, say there were conservative media local news stations out there. There aren't. They're mainly on the left side of history. Mainstream media, most of the local news out there, and I'll have the freedom of speech to say this, are not on the right side of history. They're not promoting God, family, country, and freedom and the Constitution, or at least working on that behalf to hold people accountable to get it done. Pritzker in Illinois, Brandon Johnson, the mayor in Chicago, Karen Bass as the mayor of LA, the Governor Gavin Newsom, AOC in New York, Hakeem Jeffries, and Nancy Pelosi, and the rest of them. If we had local news that was on the right side of history, these guys wouldn't be going scot-free like they have been when it comes to not being held accountable. So that's just the local level. So what we're hoping for is just more reporters, especially, and this is the thing that's tough. There are people probably that work in these local stations, and this is interesting. I was one of them. I was one of those local reporters out there live, covering a hurricane or reporting on a crime or whatever. I've worked in all kinds of cities across the country. But I knew that I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I'm a supporter of President Trump and MAGA and all that. But could I go out there and really push so-called that agenda, which is it's not really pushing an agenda. It's really common sense versus BS. It's truth versus lies, would you still have employment from that station? And there are some that have spoken on air and said, no, I support, Charlie Kirk, and he meant a lot to me. And then that person would get suspended. And now they're working at a different conservative network right now. I mean, that's what's going on. So media really is a David versus Goliath thing, but we know that David wins. So let's continue to grow this thing. Conservative media, those of you watching right now, I know a lot of you guys like to say a lot of things on the comments, and I like reading them, and I like having fun with you guys and saying, where's everybody watching from and all that. But today it's really about letting your friends and family know that conservative media like RSBN and others out there, there's many that are great. Gateway Pundit, there's so many I can name, right? Just to follow them, to look at that news perspective, look at that, because the perspective that they're coming from is built and rooted in our Father God, family, country, freedom, the United States of America, the Constitution, our country being 250 years young on July 4th of 2026. We're really looking to reverse the course of the ship of media. Because for so long, all of you guys that are watching, most of you on the right side of history that agree with what I'm saying are saying, yeah, we had all that, but thank God we have things like RSBN. Thank God we have things like X, Y, and Z when it comes to various conservative outlets, whether online podcasts or online newspapers or other networks. So we really are working on slowly changing the course. That's a big ship. And that's the mindset, I believe, is the ship, is the mindset of the American people. For so long, we've been indoctrinated and we thought it was a certain way. But all of us, most of us, have woken up and we're like, no, we don't want that anymore. We want truth. We want common sense. We want, again, our constitutional rights to be with us all the way until Jesus returns. Can I get an amen from anybody out there watching right now, as it's 1 o'clock Eastern time? Again, it's official. The U.S. Mint, if you just are joining us right now, will officially stop minting pennies. So today is the last day that the penny will be minted. So 1 penny costs the U.S. taxpayer 37 cents. So one of these is 37 cents, but not anymore. All right, speaking of money, let's shift over to some gold and silver as we await our next live interview and as we await Karoline Leavitt there. Every major financial disaster begins with a few simple facts that most people ignore. In 2007, it was overextended credit, reckless lending, and misplaced faith that, quote unquote, everything will hold. Well, then it didn't, and then banks failed, savings vanished, retirements were cut in half. The lessons, of course, were painful and unforgettable. So today, there are some of those indicators that are returning. Auto loan defaults are rising. Commercial real estate is strained. Private credit has grown far beyond its limits. So this is the situation here. They're not theories, they're patterns. And patterns repeat when people refuse to act. So for more than 25 years, Monetary Gold has guided Americans through every economic storm with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and one constant truth. Real value endures when paper confidence fades. So you can study the evidence and act on reason. You have the opportunity right there. You can call 888-617-7994 or rsbnforthegold.com to get the info kit for Monetary Gold. Let's shift over to another sponsor as we await Karoline Leavitt there in our nation's capital. Early Black Friday special. You see it right there. You have the Children's Bible Story Pillow 5-pack for $29.98. Use that RSBN promo code. Of course, mypillow.com/RSBN. Ton of great products on there. My family and I, we have a number of them. I believe a lot of you guys do too. And you remember when some of the stores out there said, oh, we're not going to sell Mike Lindell's stuff. It's My Pillow. Like he says that the elections were, rigged and all that. Well, look who's right now. My Pillow is, and Mike Lindell is. So go ahead and support him though. This is a chance right now, dollars and cents to invest into just everything when it comes to what makes America great. Small businesses, the backbone of our economy, the conservative media that like we are. So if you just make a couple purchases there, go to mypillow.com/RSBN. And also, we may be getting those $2,000 checks, according to the president, when it comes to the lower income and middle income earners out there. So that'll be $2,000. Again, that's the overflow of tariffs. And then that money gets spent right back into the the national debt and other things. That according to President Trump's Truth Social post. Anyway, let's go back to Washington, D.C. We see that Karoline Leavitt will be stepping up there. I believe we'll have a live interview coming up any minute from now. If not at this moment, we definitely do have one right after Karoline Leavitt's done, about 2 o'clock Eastern time. The great patriot, Christina Bobb, will join us right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. An attorney now with Judicial Watch, of course, a former attorney with President Trump as well. All right, it's 1:04 Eastern time. Let's go now to Father Frank Pavone, of course, with Priests for Life. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
It's always a pleasure. How you doing this afternoon?
Well, I'm doing good. Looking forward to hearing from Karoline Leavitt. You know, I love when she's up there and just really says, this is how it's going to be today. This is what's going on with the president, and then calls out the fake news. Isn't it fun to watch? I mean, it's really good TV, to be honest with you.
Well, it sure is. It's a breath of fresh air. You know, our country has waited for this for 4 years, 4 long years. And she just tells it like it is. She's transparent. She can actually answer a question, you know, unlike Biden's press secretaries. And this is what the American people want. We want a transparent administration. And this is obviously the most transparent administration that our country has ever had, aided, of course, by social media, which President Trump uses so avidly.
Yeah, and the White House, man, they post a lot of stuff, too. So it's a very... You know, obviously we're informed on a lot, but it's entertaining as well. I mean, this is just quite the time to be living, sir. So I want to ask you a couple questions. And first, let's go with this. Let's go with New York City. Your thoughts on Zohran Mamdani winning that election?
Well, I grew up just north of New York City in the suburbs, and my ministry, Priests for Life, was based in New York City for decades. And when I was ordained a priest, I was stationed there on Staten Island. So I'm sure glad we got out of there, first of all. We're based here in Florida now. But secondly, you know, it shows something I was commenting on after last year's election, which a number of other commentators, of course, were saying as well. When a party loses an election as badly as the Democrats did last year, what tends to happen is that party becomes more radicalized. The reason being that the more moderate members either have left the party or at least left the party by their voting, which is why they lost the election so badly. And so what do you have left for those that want to win primaries, for those that want to attract the base and the donors of the base? They've got to be more radical. So I think this is for one thing, a sign of that dynamic taking place in the Democrat Party, which really is a death spiral, because if you're becoming more radicalized to please your own radical base, what you're also doing is alienating yourself from the majority of American voters. But it's bad for the city, obviously. It's a disaster. I think what we need to do is, with prayer and action, do everything possible to help New York City under what's going to be a terrible administration. But at the same time, to tag the Democrat Party with this. Mamdani, when he gave his victory speech, he was unapologetic about being a socialist. He invoked the name of an American socialist, Eugene Debs, that crowd obviously knew. I think most people probably wouldn't know. So they're obviously hardcore radicals. But I think what we have to do is point out to people, look, you're seeing it before your eyes. This Democrat Party has embraced the most destructive and murderous political ideology in all of history. It's full-blown communist. And let's just know that about this party going forward, so that we can continue to reject them in all the other elections.
Yeah, exactly. I spoke about that on True Social the other day, saying, you know, we the people fully reject communism, terrorism, globalism, and all the things, you know, all the isms that are out there, or at least most of them, right? So what you do for life is awesome when it comes to the pro-life movement. And can you give us an update on what you've been up to when it comes to that?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, clergy seminars. You know, our ministry, Priests for Life, exists to activate the churches. Everybody understands that who are committed to these values and to this movement for life and for America, that we need the clergy out there front and center, speaking to these issues, encouraging the people. There's more and more of a movement in faith in America than ever before. Charlie Kirk's assassination, I think, supercharged that, which was already happening. And so I've been speaking at clergy seminars all over the country. Just got back from one up in Michigan. and we'll be doing a lot of them coming up in the new year. Another thing we do, of course, is our Silent No More campaign. Those that have had abortions have a voice. They have a very powerful voice that speaks right into the lies of abortion promoters who say that this is good for women's health, this is something that is representative of freedom. But those who have actually experienced abortion know that just the opposite is true. It's not about freedom of choice. It's about feeling that they had no freedom and no choice. And it's not liberating, it's destructive. So we give voice to the people who, having experienced abortion and having experienced healing, now want to share their stories. So we're planning now some big events for January, which of course is with the anniversary of the now overturned Roe v. Wade decision. We nevertheless have big national marches. We're planning for those. And we have a big national prayer service in Washington. It'll be on the 23rd of January. We have the Silent No More men and women ready to give public testimony at these different events. So that's some of what's going on over here at our ministry.
That's awesome. It's great to see people out there ministering, because that's part of what we need in this country. I mean, you brought up the late, great Charlie Kirk. That September 21st memorial in Glendale, Arizona was extremely powerful. And if those of you that are watching right now are just joining us, I was talking a minute ago about experiencing the presence of God. I mean, it's a real thing. And it was happening there in Glendale, Arizona. And we can have that, I believe, personally too, right? Within our own prayer lives. But outside of that, that spiritual renewal is needed, isn't it, sir?
That spiritual renewal is at the heart of making America great again. And this is why President Trump is so in favor of religious liberty. I've been going to the meetings of his Religious Liberty Commission. They have been very inspiring, led by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas. And we have been talking in those meetings about the fact that our founders wanted, they wanted neither liberty without religion, which would be, the naked public square, right? Nor did they want religion without liberty, which would mean a state-imposed creed. They wanted religion to flourish in America together with the freedom of people to choose their own religion and worship freely without interference from the government. And the reasoning behind that was not just some kind of philosophy of, let the people do and believe whatever they want. There's a deeper reason for religious freedom, which is exactly what you're saying. The founders understood, and President Trump understands, I think, better than most presidents ever did, that for America to survive, for freedom to survive, for parents to be able to raise their children the way that they feel called to do, for small businesses to flourish, for security to be enjoyed by the American people, you need faith. You need the voice and the grace that the churches bring to America. You need a spiritual revival going along with whatever economic revivals or other kind of revivals are connected with making America great again. The beautiful thing is we're seeing it unfold right before our eyes. And I think people are tired of this notion of, we don't know what the truth is. Everybody makes up their own truth. And I think especially among our younger people, they're saying there's got to be some stability somewhere. I think that's why they're turning to the Bible and they're turning back to their churches.
I have a quote from our third president, Thomas Jefferson, founding father, that's going to stand right with what you were just saying, sir. He said, quote, "The Bible is the cornerstone of liberty." I posted that on my Truth Social at Matthew Alvarez and on X just now, because that's truth, The common sense aspect of this, a lot of people try and make it confusing but it's common sense to say we want law and order in our country, or people should be held accountable, whether that's the deep state or whatever, right, for what they've done wrong. Or how about just sealing the border? You have no border, you have no country. I mean, these are just common sense things. And obviously the other side of the aisle, more the extremists, are saying, well, we want to do what we want, when we want it, how we want it. But you really can't just go into a store and steal something. But that's what they kind of believe, because that's kind of where they're at, right?
You know, here's a way that people can understand this. That either there are going to be internal constraints on behavior or external constraints. You can't have a society without the limits, proper limits on what people do. I can't walk up to somebody and steal their possessions or try to kill them or even ruin their reputation, right? We can't have a functioning society. So where's that restraint on bad behavior going to come from? Well, if it's internal, it comes from the fact that I'm trying to live a life of virtue. I'm trying to be holy, right? I'm trying to live the Bible, right? There's an internal constraint. If that's lacking, because people say, never mind about the commandments, never mind about the Bible, there is no God, I do what I want, well, then what you're inviting is tyranny. What you're inviting is external control that is a heavier and heavier hand. Why? Because the people can no longer control themselves. One way or another, those limits are going to be there. Freedom means I'm putting the limits on myself. Freedom is the power to do what's right, not the power to do whatever I want, but the power to do what's right, and then everybody's happy. It's amazing, isn't it, how people criticize us for being, oh, they're Christian nationalists, or, oh, this is so terrible, they want to impose the Bible, they want to bring the Bible back into school, oh, they're posting the 10 Commandments. It's like, take a step back, and like you said, common sense. There's moral common sense at issue here. It's like, what do you think we're imposing on you? What, that people shouldn't steal one another's cars? That people shouldn't riot in the streets? I mean, what is it about thou shalt not steal that you really have an objection to? I mean, that's the Bible. Those are the commandments. What are you even talking about? The left has gotten us into such a confused and ridiculous mindset that I think people are getting really tired of it. And I think we're going to continue to see the country move in the right direction.
And having the Bible as the cornerstone of liberty is the way to go, of course. Father Frank Pavone, thanks again for joining us and spending the time with us. Thanks for what you do for life, and we'll talk to you later.
Always good to see you. God bless.
God bless you too. Thank you. 1:16, Wednesday, November 12th. Great to speak with Frank Pavone there for quite a bit. Of course, I've been on the network for several years here on Right Side Broadcasting Network as we are looking live at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Right there in the West Wing is the press briefing room. I've been there one time back in the day with an internship at one of the cable news outlets, and then worked a bunch in local news, and here I am. Right Side Broadcasting Network, conservative media. Would rather be in conservative media than in mainstream media any day of the week. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Of course, 25% off is what you can save right now. Of course, that Veterans Day sale is ending later tonight. Of course, yesterday being Veterans Day, as we honor the men and women who risked everything to protect our freedom, including the freedom to make your own choices about your health. So our great sponsor there, All Family Pharmacy, has a special promotion for our viewers. It's that 25% off using that code RSBN25. You can get the medications your family needs. They offer more than 300 trusted prescription medications and supplements, all reviewed by licensed doctors and shipped straight to your door. And there's more. When you order from their supplement line, Operation Wellness, part of every purchase is donated to Children of Fallen Patriots, helping fund education for the children of our fallen heroes. So you can take care of your family. You could also give back to theirs. Don't miss this Veterans Day offer. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN25 promo code as it's 1:17 Eastern Time, Wednesday, November 12th. This is RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thanks so much for streaming in with us wherever you're watching out there. Shout out to Rumble, of course, and Truth Social and the other social platforms, of course, YouTube and X and all the places you're watching on our app or website. Number of other places out there. So thanks so much for live streaming in. As soon as we see Karoline Leavitt go to that microphone, I'll be quiet and we'll be going live to her. But in the meantime, at 12 o'clock, so that was about an hour and 18 minutes ago, the House of Representatives session started. What we're seeing is that later tonight, there will be a vote on the Senate-passed legislation to reopen the federal government. Of course, the government closed because of one guy, not a girl, just a guy, and his name's Chuck Schumer. Then we'll get that legislation that will then go to President Trump's desk. He'll sign it into law, and our government will reopen, and it will be fully operational and funded. And those of you that have any travel plans with the airplanes out there, man, it's going to be nice to just get to your destination on time. You know, even before the government shut down, it was a little bit difficult anyway with some of the delays out there. But we know that Sean Duffy with the Department of Transportation and the president are all about overhauling the system to make things go a lot smoother out there when it comes to aviation. So anyway, I digress a little bit there. So 1 o'clock, as you see, it's 19 minutes after is the scheduled start time for the press briefing with Karoline Leavitt. Now tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern, please join us. Robert McNeely, RSBN host, will be in studio for that coverage. The president will host a private dinner at the White House. And it's not going to be private at this point in the sense of it will be on TV. It is something that looks like is right now is open press. So we'll see who the people are that are at that dinner. That's tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern. Also, after this press briefing, the great patriot Christina Bobb will join us live. That's scheduled for 2 o'clock. We'll see maybe right after the press briefing, we'll interview Christina and move on with the broadcasts. Again, I've said this a few times. Sorry to repeat it to those of you that have listened twice. Let's go for a third time. Third time's a charm, right? It's official that the U.S. Mint will actually stop minting pennies. Today is the last penny. Today, the last penny will be minted. 1 penny costs the U.S. taxpayer 37 cents. All right, so we've had a lot of interviews today, a lot of coverage as we wait Karoline Leavitt there. Of course, you know, when we do talk to Christina Bobb, you know, she's the Judicial Watch attorney now. And the bombshell report out of the Gateway Pundit read, Christina Bobb with the Judicial Watch drops whistleblower memo on deep state. We're going to hear more about that coming up. Of course, talking about securing our elections. And also, you know, Christina released that new book, Defiant. The president wrote the foreword for that. So looking forward to that. All right, so on a much lighter note, and you know, when you're sitting in this seat and you know that you want the Constitution to be the law of the land forever in this country, right? It's hard to talk about lighter things because we always are, you know, very serious. You know, you have it on Truth Social, on X. There's a lot going on in the world. I get it. And we do talk serious topics a lot here. Again, deep state indictments, transparency with government, you know, sealing the border, all of the things. So we're with the American people on that. We are part of you, you know, and that's the thing that's different from the mainstream media. They're not part of you. They're just an offshoot of extreme Marxist ideology that's awful. I was speaking with Christina Laurent earlier about MS Now, the new name for MSNBC, and their commercial says at the beginning of it to kind of promo this new MS Now, and they start out being like, we the people, this is all about we the people. Yeah, right. We see through that. You can't get any of us on that, and your ratings are going to still keep going down. That's just how it works, you know? And so anyway, it's just good to be not controlled, not censored, not enslaved to. In conservative media, it used to be more of the Wild West when it's just like there's so many different people everywhere and everybody's on TV. Now I think it's starting to form into something that is going to be with the United States of America until Jesus returns himself. So great to be a part of it. And any of you local reporters out there or local anchors in mainstream media, if you're watching right now, hey, conservative media is growing. And if you are on the right side of history and you're just afraid to talk about God, family, country, freedom, President Trump, MAGA, the Constitution, your support for the great late Charlie Kirk, back in the day, the great late Rush Limbaugh, if you're kind of like, hey, I'm a journalist, but I just can't say this, and I know what I'm reporting is just talking points for the Democrats, and by the way, you're looking at somebody that said no more mainstream media. Peace. Anyway, let's go to some sponsors as we get ready to see Karoline Leavitt there. Director, which sponsor would you like? All right, let's go to RSBN Donate. If you'd like to donate to the network as we grow and expand here, you can. Text RSBN to 801-801 or go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. So two ways right there for you. So any of those dollars goes right to this network and more to the coverage that you guys see. So that live feed that we get, today, and the live feeds that we've shown you for a long time, especially just this year alone, definitely is not free. We don't just pull that live feed from somebody else. On occasion, we might use, something that's from the government, but that's allowed and free. But anyway, if you'd like to, assist with that financially, obviously we're not bought and paid for by some boring woke corporation out there who's trying to control what we say. We're bought and paid for by we the people in the sense of common sense and the great sponsors that we have here at the network. None of the sponsors, none of the we the people donors, none of them say to us, tone down that talk about God, family, country. You know what I mean? They don't do it. Anyway. I'm getting off on a tangent here. 1:24 Eastern time. Looking forward to seeing this press briefing, getting close to it. Director, can you repeat that? Okay, so we're hearing it's going to be starting very soon. All right. So my point from earlier, as I attempt to do the weave like President Trump, let's just go with Karoline Leavitt.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today. We are going to get to my remarks and Q&A as always, but I do have the FBI director with me here, Kash Patel. You all know him well, and he's here to provide an update for you all with respect to China. As you know, President Trump had a very successful meeting on his trip to Asia with President Xi, where they discussed the need for China to crack down on fentanyl production and distribution, which ultimately makes its way here to the United States of America. And the FBI director recently traveled to China following President Trump's meeting to meet with his counterpart in Beijing. And he has a really positive announcement for the American people to share. So the president wanted me to bring the FBI director out to share that with all of you today. So Kash, please, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Caroline. As Caroline mentioned, we have some tremendous news thanks to President Donald J. Trump once again for the American people. As soon as the President of the United States took office, he issued a mandate to rid America of the scourge that is fentanyl, a drug that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Thanks to his leadership and direct engagements with China, we set up a framework to execute that mission 8 months ago. Attorney General Bondi immediately thereafter took steps to engage her counterpart in China at the Ministry of Public Security. Pursuant to their direct discussions, as the FBI director designated to run counterpoint on this, along with the Secretary of State Rubio and Ambassador Perdue and the team here at the White House, we set forward a path to implement the policy needed to crush the plague of fentanyl. Deputy Attorney General Blanche and our teams have been hard at work ever since, ultimately culminating in my trip to Beijing last week. This was only possible due to President Trump's historic engagement with President Xi just a few short weeks ago that set the stage for today's announcement. At that meeting, the leaders reached an agreement. But just to put this in frame for the American people, a reminder here that nearly 100,000 people died of fentanyl overdoses just last year alone. Here, this year, under this president, the FBI has seized 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl so far. That is a 31% increase from the same time period last year. To put it in perspective, that's enough fentanyl to kill 127 million Americans. Fentanyl precursors are what makes up fentanyl. While we, the interagency, the Department of Justice, have been fighting hard to seize and stop drug traffickers, we must attack fentanyl precursors, the ingredients necessary to make this lethal drug. That was the sole purpose of my trip to China, to eliminate these precursors. And if successful, we would suffocate the drug trafficking organization's ability to manufacture fentanyl in places like Mexico. This was the first time an FBI director has been to China in over a decade and received the audience with his counterpart to address this matter directly. And again, thanks to President Trump's direct engagement with President Xi, the government of China committed fully to my engagement there on the ground in Beijing at a level never seen before. While at Ministry of Public Security headquarters, I met with my counterpart at MPS, where the Chinese government agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl precursors. What does that mean? The People's Republic of China has fully designated and listed all 13 precursors utilized to make fentanyl. Furthermore, they have agreed to control 7 chemical subsidiaries that are also utilized to produce this lethal drug.
Effective immediately, essentially, President Trump has shut off the pipeline that creates fentanyl that kills tens of thousands of Americans. These substances are now banned, and they will no longer be utilized by the Mexican drug trafficking organizations or any other DTOs around the world to make this drug. This historic achievement has saved tens of thousands of lives. This historic achievement would not have been possible without the tremendous team of President Trump, the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Ambassador Perdue in China, whose ground-level engagements were imperative to achieving this result. This is yet another example of how President Trump defends the American people, provides security for the American people, and puts the American people first. This is a historic first-in-its-kind achievement by any president to stop the scourge of fentanyl, and it should be championed by every single American. This achievement will save lives. We are thankful for President Trump's steadfast leadership, and this FBI will fearlessly follow in his footsteps to ensure that this mission of safeguarding the American public is achieved every single day. Thank you. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you again, Director Patel. Before we get going, I do have one quick scheduling announcement. Tomorrow, President Trump will be joined by the First Lady in the East Room for an executive order signing aimed at expanding opportunities for education, career development, housing, and other resources for young people transitioning from foster care to adulthood. This is part of the First Lady's Fostering the Future efforts, which are a Be Best initiative. In other news, the Democrats dragged on the government shutdown for 43 days, the longest shutdown in U.S. history. But tonight, thanks to Republicans, the White House is very hopeful that this shutdown is going to come to an end. The damage caused by the Democrats with this reckless government shutdown cannot be forgotten. It is entirely the fault of the Democrat Party. Just look at the vote count. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees have missed their paychecks. Tens of billions in wages and benefits were withheld, impacting vulnerable families. Millions of low-income Americans missed their SNAP benefits. Nearly 20,000 flights at airports across the country were delayed due to staffing shortages, causing Americans to miss family events, vacations, and work obligations. According to Airlines for America, an estimated 5.2 million travelers have had their flights disrupted over the course of the Democrat shutdown. And our economy has lost billions and billions of dollars in economic activity over the course of this shutdown, hurting consumer sentiment and crushing the travel and hospitality industries. According to a CBO estimate, the Democrat shutdown could end up decreasing fourth quarter economic growth by 2 whole percentage points. The Democrat shutdown made it extraordinarily difficult for economists, investors, and policymakers at the Federal Reserve to receive critical government data. The Democrats may have permanently damaged the federal statistical system, with October CPI and jobs reports likely never being released. And all of that economic data released will be permanently impaired, leaving our policymakers at the Fed flying blind at a critical period. It's hard to recap all of this without asking a simple question: why? Why have the Democrats put the American people through this pain for 43 days in a row? And it feels like Groundhog Day being up here again talking about this Democrat shutdown. And the answer to that question is pure partisan politics. They started this shutdown with a ridiculous demand to force taxpayer-funded health care benefits to illegal aliens who broke into our country. Even after it was clear President Trump and Republicans would never force American taxpayers to pay for free health care for illegals. In fact, President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill fixed that problem. The Democrats kept dragging this reckless government shutdown on for weeks longer to boost their turnout in an election, perhaps one may guess. That's because the Democrats are totally captured by their far left-wing base, who only care about attacking President Trump, even if it means hurting innocent Americans in our country. The Democrats' weakness and their unwillingness to buck the fringe members of their party dragged this harmful shutdown on for 7 weeks and inflicted massive pain onto the American public. But let's be clear. The clean CR being voted on today in the House of Representatives that will lead to the reopening of the federal government is what President Trump and Republicans have supported from day one. Our troops, air traffic controllers, and federal employees will be back to receiving their regular paychecks. Families in need will get back to receiving their food purchasing assistance, and the people's government will soon be back open for business. President Trump looks forward to finally ending this devastating Democrat shutdown with his signature, and we hope that signing will take place later tonight. On another matter, I want to address the affordability issue that's received a great deal of media attention this past week, which is ironic because it didn't receive that much attention when Joe Biden was here and inflation was at a record high 9%, the worst inflation crisis in modern American history. And President Trump won a landslide election in part to address the affordability issues created by Joe Biden and the Democrats. And that's exactly what President Trump has done since day one of his administration. Since the first day in office and every day since, the Trump administration has taken aggressive action to fix the Biden-created cost of living issues. The notion that the same Democrats who just shut down the federal government to sabotage our economy, rob people of their paychecks, and also helped Joe Biden ratchet up inflation to 9% are now suddenly affordability champions, that notion is completely absurd. And it's something only the liberal media would have the gall to push. But the reality is that President Trump and his administration have done so much to lower prices and increase the economic prosperity of the American people. And this president and his team of amazing economic advisors are going to keep working on this issue every single day. In less than 10 short months, President Trump signed the largest middle-class tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security, which will guarantee that next year Americans are going to put more money back into their pockets. The president has completely unleashed American energy dominance to help bring gasoline prices to the lowest in 5 years, and we expect them to continue to decrease. And it has also lowered energy costs overall. There is more work to do. But again, the president's deregulatory and pro-American energy agenda is absolutely going to continue to drive down prices. This formula worked in the president's first term, and we expect that it's going to work again. And this is key because we know energy costs are the #1 driver of inflation. Again, just look at what Joe Biden did to our energy industry over the past 4 years of his administration, and look at what happened to inflation as a result. Everything became more expensive. To lower prescription drug prices and healthcare costs, the president has been working around the clock on this issue. He is obsessed with negotiating these good deals on behalf of the American people to bring down pharmaceutical costs and drug costs for Americans. And he has done so on a number of fronts. You have seen him discuss that in the Oval Office several times. To fuel small businesses, lower their costs, and incentivize hiring, the Trump administration has already cut 30 unnecessary regulations for every new one on the books, which we know will save employers and small businesses across the country thousands of dollars in regulatory burdens. All of these pro-Trump policies are working, and they will continue to work. Wages are rising at the fastest pace of the start of a presidential administration in 60 years. The cost of the typical new mortgage is down by nearly $3,000 per year. There's much work to do, and this administration will continue to do it. But President Trump has already made great progress in cleaning up the economic disaster that was created by Joe Biden. With that, I will take your questions today, and in our new media seat, we have Bev Turner, who works for a new outlet, a UK outlet, but based here in Washington, D.C., GB News. Bev, thank you for being here today. Why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Caroline. So the clock is ticking on the Friday deadline by which the BBC must retract and apologise for their malicious edit of the President in a documentary shown last year. The recently resigned Director General of the BBC yesterday described the organisation as the very best of society and blamed the enemies of the BBC for this outcome. Also yesterday, a senior government minister launched a fierce defence of the channel in the House of Commons, saying that the broadcaster remains a light on the hill for people all over the world. So, does the President feel that the network is taking the situation seriously? Does he believe that they've shown sufficient regret? Does this strain the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister? And given that the organisation is publicly funded, Is the president prepared to bankrupt the BBC in his pursuit of truth and justice?
Well, thank you, Bev. There's a lot of questions in one there. I will say I know the president has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Starmer. You have been there. You've seen them in their interactions. You've questioned both leaders in your time joining us when we've gone to the United Kingdom a few different times now. However, he has always been very frank when he disagrees with leaders, even whom he has a good relationship with. And the BBC, being a fair news organization, is definitely an outlet. I think these two leaders would disagree. The president has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidized by British taxpayers, and he thinks that's extremely unfortunate for the great people of the United Kingdom and Great Britain. And I think that the president was deeply concerned by the editing, the purposeful and dishonest editing of his speech that was so clearly fake news, and he rightfully dubbed that term many years ago, and this is a classic example of that. We see it in the United States all the time. We see it now in the United Kingdom. As you know, the president's external legal counsel has filed a lawsuit against the BBC. We expect that to continue, and whether they apologize or not is up to them. Thanks for being here, Bev. Ouija.
Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
I have your statement about the new Epstein emails that have been released by House Democrats. Separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us. Mary.
Thank you, Galen. Two questions on this. In the interest of transparency, why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with? This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to get these out to the public. This administration also moved, the Department of Justice also moved to unseal grand jury testimony, which we know, unfortunately, a judge declined those requests. So this administration has done more than any, and it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. For now, they're talking about it all of a sudden because President Trump is in the Oval Office. But when Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an issue that they cared about because they actually don't care about the victims in these cases. They care about trying to score political points against President Trump, as we have, of course, seen with this government shutdown. And this entire thing, again, it's not a coincidence to the American people at home. There are no coincidences in Washington, D.C. And it is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media, and it's why I'm being asked questions about Epstein instead of the government reopening because of Republicans and President Trump. But given your interest in transparency, Caroline, why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That's a defining factor of transparency, having discussions with members of Congress about various issues. And I'm not going to detail conversations that took place in the Situation Room in the press briefing room. Reagan.
I have a question about the government shutdown.
Thank you. I'm glad someone does.
First, on the government shutdown,
The shutdown deal reverses the administration's RIPs, and it also prohibits more from happening until the end of January. I'm wondering if the president had input on this element of the deal, and if he's at all disappointed that's going to reverse the downsizing of the federal government that they did during the shutdown.
I mean, look, I think it's about 6,000 workers total. When you look at that in comparison to the reduction in the federal workforce that this administration has done since January to get rid of the waste, the fraud, the abuse, and to reduce the size of our federal bureaucracy, we've done a lot of great work on that front, and we will continue to. But obviously, the president's main priority was to reopen the federal government and get people back to work, and that's what this deal accomplishes.
There's been reports in Israeli media that the U.S. is considering building a temporary military base on the Gaza border. Can you confirm these reports?
So I had a conversation directly with the reporter who wrote this article, and this article was based on a single piece of paper, an inquiry that somebody in the Department of Navy made about an idea that may happen in the future. And this reporter deemed that as an official plan and ran with a story that the United States is looking into it. I checked with the highest levels of the United States federal government. This is not something the United States is interested in being engaged in. It's not something we are currently involved in right now that we will be funding. And the president has been very clear he doesn't want to see boots on the ground with respect to what's happening in the Middle East. We've made great peace. We've made great progress with the peace plan in Gaza, and we want to continue to see that move forward. But I put a comment in that story for a reason, and sometimes we see reporters take a piece of paper like this and just deem it as official policy, and sometimes that misleads people a little bit. Sure.
There's been a question about UK intelligence sharing regarding the drunk interdictions involving Venezuelan boats. How will that affect the U.S. military operation? There's been a lot of discussion about the high caliber of the intelligence that has been provided before any of these military actions have taken place.
I've seen that report. Oh, hello. I've seen that report. I'm familiar with the reporting, but we don't comment on intelligence matters, classified intelligence matters, as you know. As for the Trump administration's position on our narco-terrorist campaign in the Caribbean, it is going to continue, and the president has made it very clear he's not going to allow terrorists to bring illegal drugs that kill American citizens into our great country. Sure, John. I'll go to John and then Zolan. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Trump has talked about sending out $2,000 checks to U.S. citizens. Earlier this year, he also talked about sending a Doge dividend. That didn't materialize. Should U.S. citizens expect a $2,000 proposal? Is the White House committed to making that happen?
The White House is committed to making that happen, yes. And we are currently exploring all legal options to get that done. I don't have a timeline for you or any further details, but I can confirm for you that the president made it clear he wants to make it happen. And so his team of economic advisors are looking into it. And when we have an update, we'll provide one. Solon.
You said at the top that one of the costs of the government shutdown was that people missed their SNAP benefits. Can you explain then why the administration went to court to fight the funding of food stamps and SNAP benefits?
So recipients missed their SNAP benefits because the Democrats shut the government down, and they forced the administration to tap into a contingency fund that did not even fund the full entirety of this program. And so then you had an unhinged judge who was trying to dictate from the bench what the executive branch has to pay for and where that money has to come from. That is judicial overreach at its finest, and so that's why the administration pushed back on that. We can't have the judicial branch telling the executive branch that we need to rob the Children Nutrition Fund, which is what this judge was trying to do, to pay for SNAP benefits. That's completely inappropriate and it's unconstitutional, and we've been proven right with that legal argument. But now the good news is, again, thanks to Republicans and in several hours President Trump, the government is going to be reopened, and SNAP recipients are going to receive their full benefits, which is what President Trump has always wanted to do. Stephen.
Why also did you need the judicial process for that? I mean, during this shutdown, didn't the administration have a responsibility to tap into any of those reserves to ensure that essentially
we did. We did tap into it. We did tap into the contingency fund. And then the judge told us, no, you have to get more money from a children's nutrition fund. And we felt that was judicial overreach. He shouldn't tell the president which fund he has to rob because the Democrats are holding the country hostage by shutting down the federal government. Stephen, go
as
ahead.
well, if the president is considering a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
Again, he's answered this repeatedly. It's not something he's talking about or even thinking about at this moment in time. I can assure you of that. Stephen.
Caroline, I've got two questions about New York for you.
Sure.
First,
you always do.
Mayor-elect
brand for the New York Post.
Mayor-elect Mamdani, he said that he plans to reach out to President Trump and that, quote, this is a relationship that will be critical. Does the White House have a response to this planned outreach?
It's the first time I'm hearing of it. I'll let the president respond himself to that comment by Mr. Mamdani.
My second question, Jack Schlossberg, the grandson of President Kennedy, announced today that he's running for Congress. He, in the recent past, has referred to his uncle, the HHS secretary, as, quote, a rabid dog, and he has said that the Trump administration is, quote, the most corrupt in American history. Does the White House have a comment on this sort of comment from a rising star in the Democratic Party?
I don't even think such ridiculous comments are worth responding to. Obviously, those things are not true. And Secretary Kennedy is doing a phenomenal job bringing transparency and the gold standard of science back to our healthcare system. Eamon.
Thank you, Caroline. The president's hosting a number of Wall Street CEOs for dinner tonight here at the White House. Can you give us the names of the CEOs who are going to be here and give us a sense of what the president's message to Wall Street is going to be tonight?
I don't have a full list for you in front of me, Eamon. I know you've reported on some names, and we've helped you navigate whether those names were truthful or false. But I know the president actually plans to bring some of you into the dinner tonight, so you'll see for yourself in several hours if that's okay with you.
And there's been some reporting that the White House is frustrated with Bill Pulte and the rollout of this proposal for a 50-year mortgage. Can you tell us if the White House is frustrated with that rollout and if the White House still supports the idea of a 50-year mortgage for Americans?
This is a proposal that the president himself has commented on. I would defer you to the president's statements, and it's something that the administration is discussing and seriously looking into. Sure. Danny, and then go ahead.
Thank you. Some Democratic members of Congress have invited Britain's former Prince Andrew to testify on the Epstein scandal. I was just wondering if President Trump thinks that former Prince Andrew should indeed come and testify to Congress on that.
I haven't spoken to him about that specific matter, but I can ask him and get back to you.
On the government shutdown, the president and House Republicans have made clear they were not going to negotiate health care strategy or policy while the government was shut down. Now, assuming that it reopens tonight, is the president intending to invite any Democrats over to have negotiations over these subsidies or any other plan to bring down the cost of health insurance?
I will just add that, as you pointed out, the Democrats were holding our country hostage to try to negotiate on a health care system that they created. Obamacare, as it's famously called, is a system the Democrats created. It is a broken system. It has driven up healthcare costs dramatically in this country. And now they shut the government down to try to fix that system they broke. It doesn't make any sense to us, which is why the president said that's a completely untenable position. However, once the government reopens, the president, as he's always maintained, is absolutely open to having conversations about healthcare. And I think you'll see the president putting forth some really good policy proposals the Democrats should take very seriously to fix, again, the system that they broke. You can't trust the same people who broke the system to fix it, and so the American people will continue to hear from the president on this issue.
Follow up on the question about the $2,000 payments off tariff revenue. The president had also talked about using tariffs to bring down the national debt. Would this be in lieu of that? Like, this is now the new way to maybe to use that tariff revenue?
No, the president put out a statement on this clarifying he wants to do both things with the tariff revenue that he's bringing into this country. Trillions of dollars are expected to continue to pour in, and it's part of the reason that the Supreme Court case is so vital for our country's future, to restore our manufacturing industry in this country, to protect our national security, to continue to allow the president to use tariffs as leverage to negotiate economic deals that, again, are good for our national security. And that revenue can then be used for various reasons, to pay down our debt and also perhaps to give these rebate checks back to Americans, which, again, the White House is exploring the legal options of how we can get that done. Catherine, go ahead.
Caroline, Viktor Orban said this week that President Trump has promised Hungary some kind of financial shield. Do you have any details on how that will be structured or what that would look like?
I don't, but I'm happy to check with the National Security Council and get back to you.
One more. You recently said you checked with President Trump about why he needs to get an MRI on his recent trip to Walter Reed. Do you have any more detail on that?
I do, and I'm glad you asked. As stated in the memo provided on October 10th, President Trump received advanced imaging at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of his routine physical examination. The full results were reviewed by attending radiologists and consultants, and all agreed that President Trump remains in exceptional physical health, which I know all of you will see with your own eyes later this evening when he opens up his dinner to the press, and perhaps you will see him when he signs the bill to reopen the federal government. So stay tuned on plans for that. Thank you, everyone.
All right, sort of a brief press briefing there from Karoline Leavitt. It's 1:53 Eastern Time, now 1:54. You'll have that live coverage right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. The president's private dinner, which now it sounds like it will be all about the CEOs. Well, some Wall Street CEOs may be there tonight. We'll see. Our coverage will start at 7 o'clock for that. We'll also have some coverage talking about the U.S. House of Representatives, of course, because they will be voting tonight about the reopening of the federal government and getting that funding back. Of course, the good old Chuck Schumer shut down there. And then the legislation will go directly to President Trump's desk. So tonight, your place to watch all of that live coverage right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. RSBN host Robert McNeely will be here in Studio B to take care of that coverage. Again, so there's a dinner that President Trump will attend. We'll be seeing and tracking the House, vote when it comes to reopening our government. Then we may see, as you just heard from the great Karoline Leavitt, President Trump signing into law this legislation that was just passed in the Senate, the continuing resolution to simply reopen the government, to have us be fully operational, fully funded. Again, the Democrats came to the Republicans early on, 43 days ago, and said, we have a list of demands here for you guys, and you have to do this, or we're not going to vote for this CR, this continuing resolution. Some of those demands having health care pay for all illegal immigrants in the country, and also reinstituting funding for NPR and PBS, and the list went on. And the Republicans said, nope, not doing that. Finally, some of the Senate Democrats said, okay, well, I guess we, this is just my opinion on this part. Well, Mamdani won in New York. That's a good win for us. And, I guess we can't keep making the people know that this is something that we caused. So, they decided, all right, well, let's get this thing open. So that's going to happen tonight. We also have, in just a few minutes, Christina Bobb, the Judicial Watch attorney, will be joining us live. And then at about 2:30, we'll have Monetary Gold, one of the spokespeople from that company, join us live as well. In the meantime, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be here with Christina Bobb right after the break. I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.
Welcome back to RSBN Live. A lot of news going on, of course, today and then tonight as well. But in the meantime, joining us now is the Judicial Watch attorney and author of the brand new book, Defiant. Christina Bobb joins us right now. Thanks so much for joining us, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. Let's go right into this Gateway Pundit article. Mr. Hoft, of course, wrote this one. It says, bombshell. Christina Bobb with Judicial Watch drops whistleblower memo on deep state. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, that actually came from a motion I filed in my criminal case. I am a criminal defendant in Arizona with all of the alternate electors and Rudy Giuliani and Mark Meadows and John Eastman and everybody that got indicted in Arizona. And it actually comes from a motion that I filed back in June to try to have Chris Mays and her entire team disqualified. And you know, the burden of proof for a motion to disqualify is an appearance of impropriety, whether something appears improper. Now, at the time that I was indicted, I was an attorney at the RNC, and what I found in my research was that Chris Mays, after her election was over, well into 2023 and even into 2024, she was taking money from the Democrat Attorney General's Association, totaling $200,000. And then she also gave prosecution power to a nonprofit that was started by an initiative of the Democrat Attorney General's Association, States United Democracy Center, which was run by Norm Eisen, and Mark Elias is one of the founding attorneys that's listed in their documents. As anybody who's paid attention in politics knows, that those are very, very prominent Democrat attorneys, political operative attorneys. And she gave them prosecution power. She claimed attorney-client privilege with them, and she told the court in our case that they're part of the prosecution team. So all of their information is privileged. Well, that, you know, as a criminal defendant, I have the right to be tried by an impartial prosecutor, not by quite literally my political opponent. I was an RNC attorney, and I'm being tried by Democrats. So not just Democrat people, but like the actual Democrat Party. So I filed that complaint I filed that motion to disqualify in my criminal case. I'm waiting to hear what the court's going to do with that. He's been sitting on it for over 5 months at this point. I filed it on June 4th. And then I sent it to DOJ saying, hey, this looks improper to me. I don't know if it's a bribery scheme or, you should take a look at it because it sure looks improper to me. So yeah, that was the complaint.
It's wild. I mean, it's the Biden regime trying but failing yet again. I mean, this whole thing with the 2020 election, and then you look at 2022 and there's all this stuff that's going on, but you've overcome all of this. How have you done that, Christina?
Well, I haven't overcome it all yet. It's still I'm still fighting it. But I'm getting there, getting closer. And, you just take one day at a time and just keep going. And I've been fortunate thus far that there have been some good people that have had my back and have helped me and supported me. Rudy Giuliani is a good friend, and he's gone through so much worse than I have that, kind of following, if I can follow in his footsteps, that's encouraging to me. But we're at a point where we need people in positions of authority to actually mitigate what's happening, because the Department of Justice and now state attorney generals have become arms of the Democrat Party. I mean, that's what they're creating contracts with these nonprofits that are started by the Democrat Party, and it's incredibly dangerous for anybody who disagrees with their political viewpoint. And so until conservatives care, we're all going to be in trouble. We're all going to be in jeopardy, because if they don't like the way you think or speak or act or whatever, they're going to criminalize you and try to throw you in prison. And we're still fighting it. I mean, I'm fighting it in Arizona. The case in Nevada is set for trial next month. Wisconsin is moving forward. I mean, these cases, they're doing real harm to real people. So conservatives with some authority, like the Department of Justice, need to step in and recognize this for what it is a violation of our civil rights. And as far as I can tell right now, they're not doing anything about it.
Interesting to hear you say that, Christine. I was going to ask all about that as well when it comes to, really saving our country, the deep state indictments that are, trickling in here and there. But when you look at
Are they?
Well, when I say trickling in, like, the James Comeys of the world, but where's seditious conspiracy charges? I guess there should be tougher charges. But Nayib Bukele out of El Salvador went in there, cleaned house, drained the so-called swamp there, and got it done. Are you saying that we're just still slow rolling a lot of that? What's your?
I don't think they're even trying. I mean, the fact that they went after Comey and Bolton, like, okay, if they're criminals, sure, they deserve to be prosecuted, but they're dancing around the edges. They're not actually going to the heart of the injustice that's been done through our Justice Department. Nobody likes Comey. I mean, Democrats think that Comey scuttled Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016, so no one likes him. Nobody likes John Bolton because he's a turncoat Republican who stabbed President Trump in the back and tried to befriend Democrats, but they never liked him anyway because he was a Republican. So nobody cares about Bolton. They're going after people that nobody cares about, and they're going after them for kind of small level things, I think. We need to see some real charges from people who did real damage to this country, or it's only going to get worse. Next time Democrats are in power, it's going to be significantly worse, and Republicans are going to end up in prison unfairly, and there will be no one to bail them out, no one to fight for them, because this is the time to do it, and we're not.
Christina, this is going to be, I'm going to post this interview everywhere. I'm going to just be straight up with you. It's kind of because we've been talking about what you've been saying for a while here. And it's refreshing to hear someone of your stature, someone that your name is known within, obviously the country, right? But for you to be saying the DOJ is not doing enough, for you to be saying what is going on, how are we going to save our country moving forward? That's kind of a big deal in my opinion.
Well, I'm not trying to. I mean, it is a big deal. I guess, I'm not trying to like burn anybody down, but at the end of the day, my life got burned down. I'm still fighting criminal charges. And I'm so grateful President Trump pardoned a bunch of people, and that's fantastic. And I think that's President Trump trying to make up for the fact that his Department of Justice isn't doing anything. But at the end of the day, that pardon it's not impacting my state case. My indictment was thrown out 5 months ago. But the case administratively is still open because the court has never bothered to close it, trying to give the Arizona Attorney General as much time and room to correct her shortcomings, and she just hasn't been able to do it. So I'm hopeful that the case will go away soon, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. To say I'm disappointed in the lack of intestinal fortitude from our Department of Justice. Yeah, I am.
And there's a lot of people out there. I've been seeing the comments. I've been seeing the reports. I've been talking to friends and family that are saying the same thing. And now it's the thing that nobody's afraid to say because we have to, because I'll ask you, what's on the line? You referenced it a little bit, but what's really on the line if it doesn't happen, Christina?
Well, it's not going to be me. I can tell you that. They've already taken me out, to some extent, as far as the political fray goes. But they're going to, God forbid, I don't even want to say it, but they'll go after Donald Trump. They'll go after the entire cabinet. They'll go after, they already were trying to go after Republican senators. They were already pulling their phone records. They've already been trying to target very prominent Republican elected officials, cabinet members. And if the Department of Justice doesn't nip this in the bud, they'll do it again successfully. So, I don't know what to tell you. If Todd Blanche doesn't want to get involved because he feels like it gets his hands dirty, I don't know. He's either maybe they'll avoid him, looking at him as one of theirs. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't look good right now. And to your point, we don't want New York to become London, and that's the way it's turning. And then if you say something like, I'm going to question this election in 2028 or something, and say a Democrat somehow wins it, are you going to get in trouble for saying, you know what I mean? Like just some of the basic freedom of speech that we have here in this country, not inciting violence, none of that, but just simply saying we love God, family, country, freedom. We miss President Trump. Are we going to be getting knocks on the door for that kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like what's going on here?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. What we won't see happen is a reorder of the rule of law, right? Like, let's get back to basics. Let's get back to real law, to real civil rights. I mean, I don't know. I shudder to think. I shudder to think what they'll do. I think Republicans have thought that they were so popular in 2024 that they'll just be popular for like a decade or two, and leave it to Republicans to lose that momentum in less than a year. I think they lost a lot of the goodwill that President Trump created. President Trump created all of it. All of it comes from President Trump, because he was a fighter, because he was standing up, because he was saying the things that we wanted to hear. And as a result, the Republicans that, supported him got some of that goodwill. Well, President Trump's not on the ballot anymore, and people are looking around at these Republicans going, what are you doing? Like, you're not doing anything. You haven't done anything. I mean, why haven't we had comprehensive election reform pass, where President Trump says, get rid of the machines, paper ballots, single day voting, no mail-in ballots, all of those reforms that President Trump wants done, that the American people want done, which is why we voted him into office. That hasn't happened. And we have a Republican House and a Republican Senate. So why have the Republicans failed to pass that? Same thing with immigration reform. Same thing with the tariffs. People are saying, oh, President Trump is going to lose this case at the Supreme Court because it's Congress who's supposed to tariff. Okay, well, we have a Republican House and a Republican Senate. Why aren't they doing Donald Trump's economic policy?
There's so many questions right there.
They're just flat out not doing Donald Trump's agenda. And it's the Republicans. Donald Trump's biggest obstacles are not Democrats. His biggest obstacles are Republicans that are in the way of his agenda.
Yeah. I mean, it's draining the swamp. It gets back to the OG kind of chants that we would hear at rallies, drain the swamp or build the wall or lock her up. Like, only build the walls happening so far.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. And we're just not seeing the action that we wanted from Republicans. And I give President Trump a lot of credit, because he has done a lot, and he is trying to get his agenda across the finish line, and he's being stopped by Republicans. It's not, I mean, we have a Republican House, a Republican Senate, a Republican Supreme Court, a majority of Republican governors, a majority of Republican AGs. What's stopping President Trump's agenda? It's not Democrats, it's Republicans. So,
well, President Trump, do you agree? I mean, he is the top cop, though, right? He is the chief law enforcement officer. Do you think that he could actually talk to whoever, the attorneys at DOJ, all that stuff, and say, let's just take care of business here? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, he could. I think he's trying to, he appears to try to distance himself from DOJ, and all the presidents have done that because they don't want DOJ to be political, all of that. Like, even Joe Biden tried to pretend like Merrick Garland was like somehow independent from the Biden administration. So I think President Trump he's trying to not be real heavy-handed with it, but he does. I mean, we've seen him put out on Truth Social, his frustrations. He has aired frustrations on occasion with the Department of Justice, and I think they're valid. And I think he's right for being upset. I think a lot of Americans share his sentiment. He can go as far as he feels comfortable going. But at the end of the day, it's his DOJ.
Yeah, 100%. I remember a 16-second soundbite that I posted on Truth Social from, I think it was maybe a month ago, when President Trump, at the end of the event in the Oval Office, I remember him just kind of throwing the book to the side, saying, man, we should be doing a lot more than we are when it comes to how they went after us. We should be going after them. Do you recall that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we, the people, are saying. So it's kind of like, what are we going to do, Christina? Just sit here and just keep talking about this stuff? When is it going to happen, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and honestly, I really like Pam Bondi. I do. I think she's great. I don't even necessarily think it's her. I think it's people beneath her that are blocking agendas. But at the end of the day, she's top cop, right? Like, she's the AG.
Yeah. So
all I know is and this is the problem that Republicans have, is everybody can see what happened to us, right? Everybody can see what happened to people like me and the alternate electors and the people who fought for Donald Trump in 2020. We all got burned to the ground. I mean, I got absolutely burned to the ground, and I'm still coming out of it. It's not even over yet. So people look at that and go, why would I put my neck out for any Republican who didn't do anything to stand up for us in 2020? Let us take the brunt of it. So I think they need to turn this sentiment around, or they're going to have a real hard time finding support in 2026 and 2028.
Wow. It's again, have you been talking about this a lot recently? Is this
No, no.
Okay. So thank you for doing that here with us.
Well, I mean, I normally talk about specific issues, right? And this is one where, my whistleblower complaint came out, and quite honestly, the refusal to look at what came about from my whistleblower complaint is very frustrating to me, because it is significant. It is very, very significant that they need to look at it, and they're not looking at it. And I don't know, maybe that's what did it for me. For the longest time, basically for almost a year now, I've been very supportive of the Department of Justice and the FBI, saying, give them time. And I've given them time. And I've handed them, a pretty clear investigation that they should take a look at, and they're ignoring it. And I just don't have a lot of confidence that this Department of Justice gives two whats about my civil rights or your civil rights. We're expendable. That is the sentiment coming out of this Department of Justice, is that we are expendable.
We want our country to have the Constitution and freedom for years to come. We don't want to deal with, an AOC or a Gavin Newsom in 29, or if whoever in the future, because we know once they get power, this time they'll probably really try and keep it, I would think. And secondly, for you, Christina, to do this today, you're resonating with tens of millions of people right now with what you're saying. Because again, I've slowly said the same things over the past year. I said, this is what I do, Christina. I go, we're keeping an eye on any deep state indictments, if they come in and and now let's go to right. But
yeah.
for you, Christina, to be so well known as a former Trump attorney, for you to be there at Mar-a-Lago when the FBI Biden regime's crew, FBI went and broke into Mar-a-Lago, you're the one that was there. You're the one that has.
I was the one that was there. I was the one whose life got burned to the ground for it, and I don't want to turn the other cheek. I want justice, and I want justice for the president. I want justice for the first family, and I want justice for this nation, because none of us deserve to go through that. And I want to be very clear. I don't think Donald Trump is the problem. I think Donald Trump is trying to allow his Department of Justice to be the Department of Justice, and I think they're failing him. I don't think it's Donald Trump. I think it's his team at DOJ is failing him.
A number of people out there I've seen agree with that sentiment right there and that statement. So what we want, and this is what's great, when two patriots, yourself and myself, connect, and it's in front of people, it's because we resonate with what people are saying out there. For you to take the filter and say, you know what, I'm putting it over here because you dealt with very serious stuff. And the reason why I bring it up sometimes too is because obviously I'm in conservative media. I want to be able to have freedom of speech to say, I don't like this or that, and that's okay. We don't want to turn into London. We don't want to turn into China. We don't want to turn into any of that stuff. What's your reaction to more than 1 million people in New York City saying, I'm going to vote for Mamdani. I know I'm indoctrinated, but I'll vote for him. What's your thought about that?
I'm not as upset about the Mamdani thing as I thought I would be. I don't like it. Obviously, it wouldn't have been my choice. But the good news is he did not get a majority of votes. I don't know how Silva, or whatever that Republican's name was, how he managed to stay in the race all the way through, if he had some help staying in the race, but he certainly helped Mamdani. I think they're going to, you can learn the easy way or you can learn the hard way, and learn the hard way. It's not going to work. I also think Mamdani probably will not be as aggressive as he was on the campaign trail. I think he probably recognizes I actually do have to follow the law, and I actually do, have to abide by constitutional freedoms. So I don't think he's already backed off a little bit on the free bus fare for everybody. He's saying, well, we have to have a way to replace the fare and, all that stuff. So I don't think he's going to be as crazy as he pretended to be on the campaign trail.
We hope not,
I don't
right?
know.
We hope not.
Well, he's not going to be able to. Lawsuits will stop that. So, I I'm not that worried about Mamdani. I don't think it's going to be good, but I'm worried about the Republicans who pretend to help us all and don't, and lie and gaslight us and say, the Republican platform for far too long has been, but look, we're not as crazy as Democrats. And it's like, I'm sick of the platform, actually do something, actually solve a problem, actually do something hard, or get out of the race,
Wow.
So.
When we spoke, you and I, we were covering a rally in Robstown, Texas, 2022. You, me, and another colleague of ours at the time. And I remember you and I speaking, and you said to me, you go, the golden age of America, President Trump's going to get reelected, and we're going to have the golden age of America. You said that in 2022. How the heck did you know that? Because I sat there and I'm like, I hope it happens, but what are you talking about, this golden age? Where are you getting how do you do this?
Well, I think I probably got it from him, or maybe, I don't know where I got that from, but he's talking about it now, so I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel better saying it. I don't know where it came from, but I do think that's true. I think there is an opportunity to have the golden era, the American golden hour ahead of us. We have a lot to fight through to get there, but I absolutely think it's possible. I've thought it was possible for years, but we're not going to do it with the current Republicans. President Trump aside. President Trump is the exception to everything Republican. The other elected officials, and they're not going to do it.
So what would you say, and it's putting you on the spot a little bit, but give me maybe the top few things, whether it's 2, 3, 1, whatever it is, that needs to be done in order for the Constitution to be the law of the land and for us to not have a weaponized government going into the next administration, so we can speak freely, we can be the American people. And those of you watching right now, thanks for sticking with us. I mean, obviously Karoline Leavitt's press conference is over. This is a little bit of kind of after the show kind of live flow. Thanks for sticking with us. But for everybody that's listening right now, I mean, I'm sure there's people that are concerned to the point of, I don't even want to get on Truth Social and put my name and face on there because maybe one day somebody on the left side of history, the bad guys are going to come and get me because I like to post about President Trump. We don't want to think that, do we, Christina?
No, I mean, that's scary. And I wouldn't think that way. I think you should be able to support whoever you want to support. That is the difference, though, between Democrats and Republicans. When Republicans go after their political opponents, supposedly, like what we're seeing right now, they're going after their actual political opponents, the people who ran against them or who were in office ahead of them. When Democrats go after their political opponents, they go after their political opponents like Donald Trump, but they also go after all of us. They play dirty. They target the little guy. And so that's what needs to stop. That's where the Department of Justice needs to step in and say, you're going to be prosecuted. You go after Americans' civil rights just because they were reporting on an election, or they were, in my case, I was reporting on the Arizona audit. You cannot go after, non-political Americans who are simply supporting the candidate of their choice, or you're going to be prosecuted for it. And right now, there's nothing deterring them from doing that because nobody's getting prosecuted.
Yeah.
So, I've heard the rumors that there's a grand jury open in Florida, and great. I hope that's the case.
But have you? I mean, I know that you're known by a lot of people. You're on the right side of history. You're a patriot. You're conservative. You're doing so many great things for our country. We know that the president knows you. You were his attorney. So, is it as simple as reaching out to the commander-in-chief, or how does this work? Teach me the ways.
No, it's not that simple. I mean, he knows. I'm not telling you anything he doesn't know. He's a smart guy. We see it coming from him, right? Like, we see him putting his statements out on Truth, expressing frustration. So I don't know. I haven't talked to him about it, but I do believe he probably shares my sentiment about the Department of Justice. So, it's up to him as to how much rope he wants to give them, how much leeway before he wants someone more aggressive in there. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. I don't think President Trump is unaware. I think he wanted more prosecutions now. Also, I mean, like I said, I haven't talked to him about it. I don't know, but
No, I hear you, but I mean,
I would be surprised if he felt differently.
no, I understand and I agree and I hear you, but I mean, then if there needs to be some replacements to be put in to drain the swamp in various alphabet agencies, then is that not something that at the end of the day needs to be done and down yesterday?
I don't know. I don't know if it's as simple as switching people out, because there's a lot of internal politics that go into play, and anybody who you put in is going to need the help of the people who are already there.
And that's what I mean. I'm talking about the people underneath, Cash and Pam. There's still some deep state people in there. Do you agree or no?
Oh, yeah, of course there are, but I don't think it's all career. I think some of the politicals, I'm not trying to point too many fingers, but I'm not just going to blame the career bureaucrats at these departments, although they very well could be to blame, but there's a lot of political decisions going on as well. So I don't think it's all deep state people.
Okay, I hear you. First of all, again, I mean, people are probably with their mouths open right now, like, Christina Bob just said what? But no.
Well, I'm a little nervous that you're so surprised, because I thought anybody could see it. Like, is it that different?
Well, again, Christina, because here's my point. Obviously, I interview a number of people here at the network. I speak to people on Truth Social. I just joined X again. I have friends and family that talk about this. This is something that you hear other podcasters or other conservative media types. They're all saying things like what you're saying. But when you are not in that conservative media, you're not like a podcaster, right? You are somebody that was an attorney for the commander-in-chief, for the leader of the free world, somebody that has done so much for this country. And for you, Christina, to say what you've said, it to me is a very big deal.
Oh, well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but
no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Okay. And I think that it's just something that we, the people, are agreeing with you. So what do we could talk in circles a little bit, but I don't want to do that. I hear you, and what we'll do is we hope for the best, and we got to speak up. And because a lot of people have been afraid to kind of say what you have said, to be honest with you. I've seen some on X that are somewhat known, and they're like, well, I've given it a year. And just like you just said, you said, I've given it a year, and now this is what has to happen because it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way. Like, investigations take time. It takes time for people to get in there, kind of get situated. So like, okay, give them some leeway. But it's been a year.
So finally, the securing our elections part, that 19 out of 20 core promises to the American people, right? The voter ID, the paper ballots, the whole thing, right? We love that. We want that. Do you think that first of all, that has to go through a whole lot of processes just to get to that point, right? And then second, wouldn't that be a solution as well, that we just wouldn't have a communist style president in the future? You know what I mean? Because we,
it would
the people,
help a lot.
Yeah, exactly. We,
it
the
would
people,
really help a lot.
Yeah. Because the majority of the country voted for President Trump the past 3 elections. What would make them stop now, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, President Trump isn't running, and I don't think any of the Republicans following him are remotely similar to Donald Trump.
My point is that we'd always be voting for a Republican moving forward because we don't want to see the left get into control. And
maybe, I don't know. That might be a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Just a little bit.
That's fine. That's why.
But at least from my perspective, I think there's a lot of people who have voted Republican this last cycle for Donald Trump that didn't really want to vote Republican, but they were like, Democrats have lost their minds. If Democrats, kind of reassemble into something better, it might flip,
I hope not. I just don't want our country to turn into London, England. That's really.
I don't want that either.
When I do what I do every day here, it is always, and I repeat myself, but it really is for God, for family, for country, and for freedom. I just want to see that to the future. And so to be able to be outside of mainstream media and in conservative media, just like you were at OAN doing such a great job, and then now to what you're saying today, it's just awesome. Your book, Defiant. Tell us a little bit about that before you go.
Yeah, so I was President Trump's custodian of records for the Mar-a-Lago case. I was present on site during the raid, and I give you all the dirty details about that story, about what went down beforehand. I met with DOJ and the FBI at Mar-a-Lago about 2 months prior to. I just give you all the details of everything that transpired, and yeah, you can make up your mind.
Awesome. Judicial Watch attorney Christina Bobb, great patriot, great new book, Defiant. Thanks again for spending this much time with us. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. That's something you won't hear on the mainstream media. And I was obviously, as you could see, I was surprised to hear direct words like that from the great Christina Bobb, but it's something that a lot of people agree with. So it's 2:28. We'll have one more interview coming up. But before we get to that, let's go to callsheet.com/RSBN. Of course, you can download the app if you'd like. Go to callsheet.com/RSBN or go to the QR code. Great sponsor of this broadcast. Of course, more than 1 million people on Call Sheet. And if you're looking to bet or trade or just check out polls for whether it's, I was just going to say the deep state, whether it's sports or weather or politics or faith, you can do that right there on callsheet.com. Also, Monetary Gold is another great sponsor here. And coming up, we'll have a great interview with one of the spokespeople from Monetary Gold. Every major financial disaster begins with a few simple facts that most people ignore. In 2007, it was overextended credit, reckless lending, and misplaced faith that, quote unquote, everything will hold. Then it didn't. Banks failed, savings vanished, retirements were cut in half. The lesson was painful and unforgettable. Today, those same indicators are returning. Auto loan defaults are rising. Commercial real estate is strained. Private credit has grown far beyond its limits. And now people like Jamie Dimon, a man who understands money pretty well, of course, is warning that when you see one problem in the system, there are always others hiding behind it. So they're not theories, they're patterns. And patterns repeat when people refuse to act. So for more than 25 years, Monetary Gold has guided Americans through every economic storm with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and one constant truth: real value endures when paper confidence fades. So you could study the evidence, act on reason. You have the number there, 888-617-7994, or go to rsbnforthegold.com today to learn how owning tangible gold and silver can anchor your savings before the next shock arrives. It is now the bottom of the hour, 2:30 Eastern Time, right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And speaking of Monetary Gold, let's now go to Scott Cheney with Monetary Gold. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm okay. I just had a 30-minute interview. I'm ready to talk with you about this great sponsor. I mean, you know, this whole gold silver thing, when I was seeing that is what, $4,000 an ounce? Is that right for gold right now?
That is right. And
Wow.
it keeps moving. It keeps moving. We don't see it slowing down right now. All the trends on what we're seeing is people are really stepping away from the US dollar, and they're getting into assets that are physical, that are tangible, that they could hold. And that's exactly what gold and silver, they are. That's what they do for you. They not only protect, but it's growing your wealth all at the same time. So it's a great time to get into it as a physical asset.
So the difference between stock gold and physical gold and silver, can you explain that to us?
It's a great question. So at times, here's what we have happen. People call in and they really don't know what they're looking for, whether they're first-time buyers or they've bought gold and silver before. Stock gold is completely different than physical gold. Now, when you're looking at stock gold or an ETF, that's tied to the stock market. Okay, that's all tied to the US dollar going up and down when you see it. When you're dealing with a company like us, Monetary Gold, we actually ship the physical metals directly to where you are, or directly to whatever location that you prefer. It's wealth that you could hold. So it's not tied to the US dollar. It's not tied to the stock market. When you call us and you're looking for gold and silver, we only deal with physical precious metals. So that's very important. And I'm glad that we clarified that.
No, that's awesome. And then so the question is, why gold and silver now? Is it because it's the ounce? I mean, what is it, $50 for silver an ounce and $4,000 for gold? So obviously a hot time to do it.
It is. Well, right now, on my last interview, they asked me when's a good time to buy silver and gold. Yesterday. I mean, it is moving right now. Silver is an amazing asset that our country actually is running out. It's not only used for industrial, but it's used for protection and growth. And so we're putting our big customers right now into silver. We're watching it grow. But a good time to buy, people are buying, they're concerned with the dollar. They're concerned with our political climate right now. They're concerned with wars going on. We have other countries that are trying to step away from the US dollar. And we believe in it. I believe in it. I wouldn't be selling gold and silver if I didn't. And it's always a pleasure to come on your show and tell your audience that it is an asset that everyone should own. Now, what I say by that is it is a privilege to be in precious metals. Not everyone could afford it. But if you have a family, you have a retirement account, you have an IRA, you have cash sitting in the bank, let us help you out. Let us review that portfolio. Let us see what you have going on. And we could see the specific assets that we could put you in on how we help your needs. And that's really what I'm here to do as a senior portfolio manager. I want to help out your specific needs to not only protect your wealth, but to help watch it grow.
Can you break down the information about the BRICS nations? Of course, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Really, what does that mean when it comes to pulling away from the dollar? They just want to use their own local currency. Is that all it is?
That's correct. Well, these countries right now, I wouldn't say that we have the best relationships with these other countries right now. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and many other countries that they're not speaking about. What they're doing is they're gathering together and they want to create a new currency that is backed by gold and silver, backed by commodities. Gold and silver is a commodity. So when these countries are doing this and they're stepping away from our US dollar, we lose our power. We're not going to lose all our power, but we lose the value of the dollar. The value of the dollar holds a lot of power in our country. And when the dollar's gone, our whole country is in big turmoil, in big trouble. And so what we're seeing right now is we're seeing more money getting printed. Okay, we're seeing dollar devaluation. And we're seeing these other countries step away from our dollar that altogether impacts it. And yet gold and silver, they're on the rise right now. And so not only is it great for protection and to secure your wealth that you have, but man, we are seeing growth right now. And it's something that, one, we're taking really serious. We have experts. We've been doing this for 25 years. So we're not going to disappear on our customers. We touch base with them regularly. It's something that everyone should own right now. And we'll walk you through those steps. I'm more than happy to do that. And if we can't help you, we won't. If we can't help you, our job here is to help our customers, not hurt them. Exactly. So when it comes back to BRICS, people are concerned because of the US dollar and because of these countries stepping away.
Exactly. So you guys have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, which is good to have. It's A+. You can't get any better than that, right? But specifically, can you break down for us, if someone is watching this or they see the number on the screen or RSBN for the gold or that kind of thing, what specifically would be the next step that they would see to get the info kit? And then outside of that, what would be the next step after that as well?
Great question. What happens is you dial that number and you will get connected to one of our live specialists that'll go over, hey, what are you looking for? What do you need? Really go into detail. Sometimes we ask questions that are personal and uncomfortable, meaning we need to know if we could help you. We need to get to the bottom line of, hey, where can we come in and how can precious metals be a plus and a protection for you and your family? So you're going to get a live specialist, an intake specialist. They're going to understand what you have, what you're looking for, and then you're going to get transferred over to a senior portfolio manager. Someone like me who will walk you through the steps, going about this, how to put precious metals into your portfolio. I'm on the phones all day. I'm here. So people that are seeing me right now, you'll definitely get to speak to me and really call now. If you've been thinking about this for years and haven't purchased gold and silver, now is the time. And to go over just a little bit of numbers here, silver from last year has gone up around 55%. Okay. In the last 6 months, silver has gone up roughly 66%. It's on the move right now. We do not see it slowing down. And many experts say that they see it at 75 plus. Personally, if you ask my opinion, I think it could get a lot more expensive than that. So if you think about it, if our customers went into gold or silver last year and it hit over 55 to 66%, you think they're pretty happy?
Oh, yeah.
You think that that's an investment that you'd like to be in?
I mean, that's the thing. When these numbers are increasing like that, it's just it's just mind-boggling. Which is even with the gold and the silver, $50 an ounce for silver right now, $4,000 for gold. So it's quite astounding to see it.
Yeah, it is. It is, and we're here to help. We're here to walk you through it. We're patient. We're not going to push you into anything that you don't want. And I believe in it. More importantly than anything, I sell gold and silver, but I love Jesus. And everywhere I go, I'm going to let people know that I am, first of all, a man that is after God's heart. So I stand with that, and I'm more than happy to walk you through how we could help protect, whether it's your retirement or whether it's cash in the bank. So,
Amen.
And we really appreciate your partnership with us as well. We're happy to be a part of this. Robert's a great guy as well. I enjoy speaking to him. So we're thankful as well, and we appreciate it. Want to continue this partnership with you.
Yeah, right back
and your
at you.
audience.
Yeah, 100%. We're grateful for you guys as well. Thanks so much, Scott Cheney with Monetary Gold. And of course, we'll talk to you again soon, whether Robert or myself, but one of us will. But we'll be talking to you again soon. I'm going to read
the phones. And I didn't mean to interrupt, but the phones are ringing right now. So if you call that number right now, it's kind of a call to action. We will actually cover your fees when it comes to the IRA. There will be no setup fees, no storage fees. We will cover that with qualifying. It's got to be a qualifying purchase, but we will cover that. And we're happy to do so. Call that number now and get someone on the phone so I could walk you through this.
Yeah, exactly. 888-617-7994 or rsbnforthegold.com. Sir, thank you again for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
Hey, God bless you, okay?
God bless you, man. That's awesome.
Care.
Thank you. Amen.
Bye.
Awesome stuff there. 2:40, Wednesday, November 12th. Great to speak with Scott there at Monetary Gold. It is, again, 2:40, Wednesday, November 12th. If you're just joining us way late at the end of the broadcast, that's all right. We have another one coming up tonight, 7 o'clock. RSBN host Robert McNeely will be here in Studio B as we get more coverage from Washington, D.C. For all of us at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thanks so much for live streaming in America. We love you. We're with you. We're believing for the best, working hard, praying hard, voting hard, all the things to save our country. We'll see you tonight.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.